Hello, this is Storybooks channel. New videos are posted every day. Subscribe and click the bell.
Dear Mom and Dad, Robert bowed dutifully to his parents, giving them a solemn look. Meet Emily, my fiancée. Son. His father's eyebrows rose in amazement. Surprised, so surprised. Are you sure that this is the girl you are ready to call your wife? Yes, Dad. The son, satisfied with the effect, smiled. Just as you wanted, a girl from the deep country, a redneck. Emily, meet Kathy, my mother, and this imposing man, Sebastian, my father. He pushed the girl towards her parents, whispering in her ear, "Don't forget why you're here. They don't have to like you." Emily grabbed Sebastian's hand and shook it vigorously. "It's so nice to meet you. Robert has told me a lot about you." The man was shocked by the girl's directness, but smiled back politely. "Oh." Letting go of her father's hand, with childish naivety, Emily opened her surprised eyes wide and turned to Kathy. "How do you walk in heels like that? It's to die not to get up. How hard it is. In our village, you can't take a step in such shoes. Your heels will fall into the ground at once." She laughed. "Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say something wrong?" The girl turned to Robert, noticing the fright in the woman's eyes. "No, dear." The guy put his arm around the bride. "Everything is fine. It's just that my parents didn't expect to see us together today, so they can't come to their senses yet." Emily waved her hand and laughed. "We have everything simple. Everyone goes to visit each other when they want, and I heard that you have to make an appointment in advance, almost to make an appointment." "Parents?" The son was having fun. "Why are you frozen? It's rude to have guests on the doorstep." "Granddaughter." Jenna ran out onto the porch as soon as she saw Emily in the driveway. "My granddaughter's back. I waited for you at last. I've been so worried about you." "Grandma, hello." Emily left the suitcase and hugged the old woman. "Why are you crying?" Wiping her tears, laughed the girl. "Everything is good. We are together again." "Yes, from joy. Come into the house. Hungry? Probably. I baked pies. Cooked meat, as you like." "How beautiful you've become. But you're very thin. I'll fatten you up quickly at home, Matches, or you won't be able to work." "At home?" Emily put the suitcase down and took a deep breath. "I missed you so much. Wash my hands and go to the table, or everything will get cold." Delicious. The girl even squinted with pleasure, eating meat in a pot. "Why have you lost so much weight?" The grandmother lamented. "Didn't you cook?" "All in Cafes? She's all skin and bones left." "Nothing if there were bones, and the meat will grow. I had no time for the last few months, diploma defense, and I was nervous a lot. Nothing, you'll get better quickly in the fresh air and at home. Will you rest a little? I'm going to work in 2 days." The farm director called almost every day, asking when I'll be back. They're really short-staffed over there. "Wow. Your parents would be so proud of you." Jenna had tears in her eyes. They didn't live to see this happy hour. Emily looked at the picture of her parents hanging on the wall, her father and Mother Young smiling. "I almost don't remember them." The girl said sadly, "I only remember my mother putting me to bed and singing a lullaby every night, and my father taking me for a ride on the boat in the summer. I was terribly afraid, but I still sat down with him." "Yes, you were only 7 years old when they died. Of course, you don't remember much. You were under so much stress. Memory erases what's left over. I also remember how happy we were together, and then the car accident ruined everything." "Grandma." Emily took the older woman's hand, kissed it. "Thank you for not putting me in an orphanage. It's thanks to you that I decided to study to be a veterinarian. What else could you have been?" Jenna smiled through her tears. I grew up with animals, and I had to keep all kinds of animals to feed you. I remember we had geese, chickens, 2 goats, and a cow, Star. That's right. I loved taking care of them. The thing I hated the most was the hay rides, the mosquitoes in the summer. Remember when you used to pick up stray animals? Treating them, nursing them back to health. Provided the neighbors with kittens and puppies. Where are our cats, by the way? Why don't you see them? Where would they be? Out on the street. They don't know you're here yet, or they would have come running long ago. Emily laughed happily. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and a pretty middle-aged woman appeared on the doorstep. "Hello, neighbors." She said hello with a ringing voice. And I look at my grandmother. Some beauty from the city came. I think, an artist or what? But it's her granddaughter who's come to see her. "Emily, what a woman you've become." The woman, plucking her tongue, admiringly looked at the guest. I don't recognize her, a city girl with a higher education. You probably won't say hello now. Come on, Aunt Cindy. Emily got up from the table. I always think of you fondly. Thank you for supporting my grandmother while I was in college. I had peace of mind for her. Come and have dinner with us, Cindy. You don't have to stand on the doorstep. You know you're always welcome. Thank you, I'd like that. Did you wait for Jenna? To think what a strong girl you've got. She went to college on her own, graduated, and went back to work in the village. Are you proud of your granddaughter, Jenna? Why didn't you stay in town, Emily? There are more suitors there than in our village. There's no one to look at. How will grandmother be without me? The girl looked kindly at the old woman. The village needs veterinarians too. And the city is not interesting. There are more pussycats. Dogs have to treat, and here from me will be more useful, and the people are kinder, and I'm too early to get married. Who'd have thought it, Jenna? That your granddaughter would grow up to be such a good-looking girl. She was a wretch when she was a child, and God gave her intelligence and beauty. Tell me about it. The director is waiting for her. Can't wait to go to work. Looking proudly at her granddaughter, said Jenna. Only gave her 2 days off. Oh, what's going on? Of course, the farm needs specialists. We don't have enough young people. Now everyone is running away from the village to the city. And you, Emily, on the contrary, to the village. Well, I'm glad I came back. While the neighbors were discussing the latest village news, Emily went to her room. She wanted to rest from the road because very soon she was going to start work. Since Monday, the girl got a job as a veterinarian. How is my granddaughter? Asked after a while, Jenna asked the farm director, Is she doing well? She's a smart girl, young, but she knows everything. She takes on any job, and the team accepted her right away. She doesn't refuse to help anyone. You, Jenna, have raised a good granddaughter. When she gains experience, I'll make her the chief veterinarian of the whole district. I like her very much, smart, talkative, and friendly with people. With everyone will stop, talk, and with livestock knows how to handle. Every morning, Emily went to work with pleasure. Everyone loved her, often came for advice. What are we going to do, Emily? One day the farm manager came to her. In the district for us ordered medicines, and the driver is sick. Somehow we need to bring. And who's going? One is on a business trip. Another's car broke down. The third was on his way to a friend's wedding. And not everyone will trust such a load. And you can't wait. You can't give expired vaccines. I've asked everyone. Nobody's going to the neighborhood anytime soon. If it's an emergency, I'll go. You? Do you even have a license? I have a license. I got it 6 months ago. I don't have much experience, but I can get to the city. But it's a bit scary there. There's a lot of cars. but I'll take it easy. Where will you get a car? I've had a Ford from my dead grandfather. Oh, Emily, if you help me out, I'll never forget it. Emily came home, and the first thing she did was look at the car. Where are you going? Asked her grandmother. Are you really going by car? I need to bring medicines to the city. They are perishable. Is there no one else but you? No one. It's okay. I'll manage. I'll drive slowly. What kind of people are these? The old woman lamented. They know you can't refuse, so they ride on you. They sit on your neck and dangle their legs. Will they at least pay for the gas? They will? Already at the door, said the girl. Emily, taking her time, drove to the city and, carefully maneuvering in the flow of cars, reached the destination. Having quickly loaded the boxes with medicines, she started on her way back. Who puts cars like this? She was indignant, driving out of the parking lot. There are markings. No, they'll just do something like this. Oh, God! She prayed, looking carefully in one mirror and then the other. Help her get out of the parking lot without hitting anyone. She was about to pull into the driveway when she heard a screeching sound. Oh, my God! The girl shrieked. I've hit her. I'm dead. Not alive, not dead. She struggled to get out of her car to see what she had done. A guard was already running toward her, and he didn't look like a good guy. Oh, shit! He shouted from afar. What have you done? Who taught you to back up like that? Where did you learn to drive like that? I was driving normally. Emily had tears in her eyes. It's so crowded around here. You must have bought a license. The man was indignant. Where were your eyes? Were you putting on lipstick or talking on the phone? Do you realize how much money you're in for? To ruin a new car, you have to be such a teapot. I didn't realize I was getting too close to her. What am I going to tell the owner? He put it here on purpose, so that such headless people wouldn't park next to it. But no, you brainless chicken. Stop insulting me. I admit I'm guilty. I'll make it up to you. Of course you'll confess. Now you'll have to figure out where you'll get the money to pay for the repairs. How much do you think they'll charge? Are you stupid? Look at the car. You can't even dream of this kind of money. The guard dialed the number of the car's owner. I'll have to work half my life to pay him back. Robert, come to the parking lot, please. We got a problem here. What's wrong? An anxious Robert approached his car. Look what this lady did. The guard pointed to the scratch that marred the shiny side of the expensive foreign car. How's that? I left my car here on purpose so that it would be looked after 24 hours a day. I pay a hefty monthly deposit, and you didn't see it. I'm sorry, Robert. The security guard was making excuses. It's not my fault. How can you drive a wreck like that? The owner of the foreign car attacked Emily. Where did you find this rusty bucket of nuts? You should be banned from driving at all. He shouted. You should be forbidden to stand next to normal cars. Do you even have a license? It was an accident. The girl shrank from fright. I thought I could get out without hitting anyone. She thought she did. Robert raged. If you can't drive, you shouldn't be driving. I'll pay for the repairs. The girl mumbled quietly, smearing tears on her cheeks. Of course you will. Do you know how much it will cost you? He named the cost. The girl shrieked quietly. Well, I don't have that kind of money now. I don't care. I can't drive a car like this. I'll have to go to a repair shop immediately. When will you give me the money? I'll give it to you. Helplessly, looking at the man, she said, only in installments. In installments? And when will you pay off the debt? In the next life? I'll earn it, I promise. Our wages are small, but I'll take an extra job and pay you back. What can you earn in your village?" The boy brushed it off. "All right, go today. I'll clarify the amount in the repair shop." "Don't worry, I won't take too much, but I'm not going to forgive you either. Just leave me your details, name, address, phone number. I will contact you later. I will decide what to do with you." Upset Emily drove out of town, her hands shaking. She could barely keep from bursting into tears. At the edge of the village, she stopped the car and finally let the tears flow. All of them. The girl tried to pull herself together. "Grandma mustn't guess that I'm in trouble. I'll take care of it myself." She looked at herself in the mirror, wiped her tears, took a few deep breaths, and started the car. But Jenna's heart already sensed something wrong. She went out to meet her granddaughter. "Why are you so late?" "I was beginning to worry." The old woman carefully looked at the girl, and she carefully hid her eyes. "Were you crying?" "No, not at all, Grandma." Emily smiled. "It's just a lot of traffic at the end of the day. You know, that's why I was late. I was a little nervous." "It's okay. I brought the medicine so there's enough work for everyone tomorrow." "Why are you lying to me?" "Seriously," said the old woman. "I can see that something has happened to you. Tell me, you've always trusted me. You imagined it. Never mind." "Emily, what happened?" Jenna insisted. She sat the girl down at the table and sat opposite. "Don't hold it in. The two of us can solve any problem. I scratched someone else's car." "Eh?" The woman covered her mouth with her hand and stared at her fearfully. "What about it? Did you scratch it badly? Was it an expensive car?" "Very expensive. I'll never make that kind of money in my whole life." "Grandma?" Emily jumped up as she saw the old woman suddenly turn pale, sigh sharply, and start to slump on her side. "What's wrong with you? Are you sick? I'll call an ambulance. Be patient, my dear." "Ambulance, come quickly. My grandmother's heart is bad." The car came quickly. After examining the patient, the doctor took her to the hospital. "I'll go with you." The girl fidgeted, not knowing what to grab. "No, stay at home. You can't help her now anyway. Come back tomorrow, but in the meantime, pack her things, put everything she needs. Jenna's been taken away. It's my fault." Emily berated herself. She paced from corner to corner, biting her lip nervously. She shouldn't have told her about the accident. Her heart was weak as it was, and now she'd learned about the repair bill, and it had finally brought her down. "I wish everything would be all right. And the money I'll collect, I'll persuade the owner of the foreign car to wait, so that he is not a man or what. You can see he's rich. He thinks this amount is a trifle, but for us it's a fortune." That night she almost did not sleep, barely waited until morning, canceled her work and went to the hospital. "Grandma." She rushed to the old woman, entering the room. "I was so scared yesterday when you fainted. I'm sorry, it was all my fault. It wasn't your fault. I guess it's time for me to go to your parents." The old woman looked sadly at her granddaughter. "Only the thought keeps me thinking, how can you stay here alone?" No, don't think about bad things. Just lie, please. I need you very much. I'll go talk to the doctor and you get some rest." Emily left Jenna and went to the residence room. "Doctor, how's my grandmother? When is she coming home?" "I can't tell you anything definite yet. We got the seizure under control, but she's gonna have to stay with us for a while. We need to do a full workup. Then we'll know what kind of treatment she'll need." Emily was torn between work, home, and hospital. She visited the old lady every day. She's all done for. Her grandmother told her, "You've lost weight. Only your eyes are left on your face, not enough to make you sick. Don't you eat at all?" "No time." The girl waved me off. Nothing, you'll be back. I'll be back to normal in no time on your pies. But don't stay here too long. I'd like to leave now. I feel a little better already, but the doctor won't let me go. I'm having tests every day. What do they want to find out? You should go to the doctor. Ask him when he's going to release me. I'd be back on my feet faster at home. I can't stand lying here. The girl tracked down the doctor and inquired, "Do you need any medication?" "You tell me, I'll get it. Medication can't help here." The doctor frowned. "We need to operate, and urgently. Surgery." "Then do it. What are you waiting for?" "It's a paid operation." "How paid?" The doctor didn't say anything. "Okay, but there are quotas, right?" "On the quota, the queue for the year ahead, and if we do not make your grandmother's surgery in the next 2-3 months, you will lose her." "How much is the surgery?" The doctor wrote down the amount on a piece of paper and silently handed it to Emily. "Where are we going to get such money?" exclaimed the girl in despair. "Is it impossible to do anything? There are some foundations that help to find money. There are funds, but they tend to help the young and your grandmother. Excuse me, age. What am I supposed to do?" Emily cried out of desperation. "Don't give up. Your grandmother doesn't need the extra worry right now, and look for money. I don't know. Borrow from someone, take out a loan. Without surgery, how long can she live? Until the first stress. She's in mortal danger from any kind of excitement right now. Can you keep her from worrying? No. Think about it. Surgery is the only thing that will help her." The girl returned home, completely powerless, lay down in bed without undressing. She opened herself up with a blanket and sobbed into her pillow. "I'll never find that kind of money," she read. "Even if I sold everything here, I wouldn't get that kind of money. What can I do? Where can I find the damn money? There must be some way out." Her sobs were interrupted by a phone call. An unfamiliar number popped up on the screen. "Hello." Emily answered cautiously. "Emily, it's Robert." "Remember me? You scratched my car." The girl went cold. It had been 3 weeks since the accident, and she had forgotten about it, busy with domestic problems. "Yes, I remember." "Unsure," she answered. "I'm calling to find out when you're going to pay me back for the repair." "How much?" In a hoarse voice of excitement, she asked. "You'd better not know." Robert laughed. "I doubt very much you have any. I'll try, I'll earn it." Emily spoke quickly. "I'll give it to you as promised. I have another offer." "What?" The girl was surprised. "This is not a telephone conversation. Can we meet tomorrow at the cafe after work?" "I don't understand. What do you want from me?" "I told you I'll give you the money. I'll tell you everything when we meet. If you come, otherwise I'll sue you for the repair money. Do you want that kind of trouble?" "Okay, I'll come over." Emily reluctantly agreed. She showed up a little before the appointed time. "Will you order something?" The waiter asked her politely. "Yes, a cup of coffee, please." She stared hatefully out the window, waiting for Robert. There was a cup of coffee in front of her, but she didn't even touch it. "Good evening." She heard and shuddered in surprise. "Sorry, I'm late. Business. I suggest we go straight to you." Emily nodded in agreement, glanced at the car parked in front of the cafe, and blushed. The black, shiny side of the car still had a huge scratch on it, and it looked especially ugly in the burgundy rays of the setting sun. "Tell me quickly what you want. Take your time." Robert grinned. "You won't get rid of me that easily, and you'll have to pay for it anyway. I won't sleep with you." "Don't even count on it." Emily cut Emily off angrily. "What makes you think I want to sleep with you?" The young man raised his eyebrows in surprise. I'm not going to throw myself at your bones, he remarked, hinting at her slim figure. I have a business proposition for you. If you do everything right, I will not only forgive the debt, but also give you money. Emily looked at him with interest. What do you want me to do? You see, I'm from a wealthy family, and my parents for some reason decided that I must marry the daughter of my father's childhood friend. Is she ugly? That's not the point. I don't love her. I already have a fiancé of my own choosing, but I know for a fact that my parents won't agree to our marriage. My father will think of disinheriting me, and I don't want that. I don't understand. What does this have to do with me? You're going to play my fiancé. What? She looked at Robert in surprise. Are you out of your mind? I've thought of everything. The young man hurried on. My father is a very stubborn man. There's no way he'd let me marry someone like you. What's wrong with me? The girl looked at him suspiciously. It's written on your forehead. A hillbilly. I still don't understand. What don't you understand? I'll introduce you as my fiancé. My father, of course, will fight to keep us from getting married. In his mind, you're no match for the rich heir to the family business, and we'll have to part ways. I resent the whole world and my father, who did me such an injustice. I will stop eating and sleeping. My torment of lost love will become unbearable for others. Robert accompanied his fiery speech with theatrical gestures. Emily, smiling, looked at him. But I won't suffer for long, to be honest. I won't last a day without food, but a couple of months or so. My parents, of course, my suffering will bring a lot of grief. My father, out of guilt towards his son, will eventually agree to all my terms. That's when I'll introduce Kelly to them as my true one and only lover. By then, no one will even remember my friend's hated daughter. I get to marry the girl I love, you get the reward, and we're even. $50. Emily said quickly. What? I don't understand, Robert. I want $50,000 and not a dime less for helping you. The girl repeated firmly. Robert looked at her dumbfounded and even coughed, choking with indignation. Aren't you confused now? Actually, you still owe me for the repair of the car. Isn't it too expensive for your services? I didn't expect that. You look like you're doing the right thing. Or you're paying that much, categorically declared the girl, desperately looking at him. Or I refuse to participate in your play. Find another fool who agrees to play the village simpleton. I'm sure she'll cost you more. It's none of my business, of course. But why do you need so much money? Where are you going to spend it in your village? As you rightly said, it's none of your business. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, not letting the tears escape. It's not for me. My grandmother urgently needs an operation. This money is for her. If I don't find this amount of money soon, she could die at any moment. I have no choice. Robert hummed, hesitated for a moment, then waved his hand. To hell with you. You'll get your $50. When are we going to meet the parents? The girl sighed with relief and answered, the day after tomorrow. Well, Robert said cheerfully and held out his hand to Emily. Shall we make a deal? Deal. She held out hers in return. I'll be there to pick you up, ready when you are. I'm on my way. Are you ready? Robert called at the agreed time. Ready. Looking back at the old woman, the girl replied in a whisper. The grandmother slept in her room. Emily went in from time to listen to her breathing. Just stop the car on the outskirts of the village. I don't want Grandma to see you. Why not? The young man was surprised. I don't want to worry her unnecessarily. I can't lie, and telling the truth would kill her. I got it. I'm already here. I'm waiting for you. I'm on my way. Emily hung up. "Grandma?" The girl peeked into the room. Jenna opened her eyes. "I've been invited to visit here. Will you be alone?" She looked at her guiltily. "Oh, how nice, of course I will." The old woman was happy. "Go, have some fun at least. Why should you stay at home with a sick old woman? Your business is young. Are you feeling all right? Don't worry, you'll rest at least. You're exhausted. I see. If you need anything, call me immediately. I'll be right over." "Okay." Emily kissed her grandmother. "Go with God, my dear." Robert looked with interest at the girl who was hurrying along the road. Yes, she was dressed, to put it bluntly, out of fashion. The young man thought to himself, "The dress is simple. They don't wear such clothes nowadays, only for the village. It's good that it's not up to her heels, but her legs are nice, and her hair is gorgeous. She should go to a good master. He could make a princess out of her." Emily, feeling his gaze on her, fixed her hair in embarrassment. Usually she put it in a tight braid so it wouldn't get in the way at work, but today she left it loose and slightly curled the ends. "Don't you have another dress?" asked Robert when the girl got into the car. "What's wrong with my dress?" "I'm sorry. Famous brands do not sell in our stores, and I don't have the money, as you know. I don't have. Besides, I'm supposed to play a hillbilly, and we have our own fashion. We can't keep up with you city folk, can we?" "Okay, no offense," peacefully said Robert and started the car. "It suits you." "Let's go." And he started the car. "Now listen to me. You have to create the image of a country girl who is dead set on the major. Sleeping and seeing how to marry me off so you can get a city license. Your parents can't guess that you've got a college degree under your belt. Let them see you as a poorly educated, uneducated girl. It's gonna be tough. It's okay. For 50,000 you'll work hard and you'll play it right. Remember, you have to scare them, push them away. Don't say or do anything to make them feel sorry for you or, God forbid, sympathize with you." "We're here," Robert announced, stopping the car outside the 3-story mansion. "Have you memorized everything?" "Yes, I'll try to play my part well." The young people walked into the house. Emily was worried. "Robert? At last, we've been waiting for you." Mother was the first to rush out to greet them. "Dear Mom and Dad." Robert bowed dutifully to his parents, giving them a solemn look. "Meet Emily, my fiancée." Emily was shy, sunk her gaze and remained silent, a light blush playing on her cheeks. "Son?" The father's eyebrows rose in amazement. "Surprised, so surprised. Are you sure that this is the girl you are ready to call your wife?" "What's wrong with that, Dad?" "Emily is a very nice, sweet girl. Yeah, she's not what you're used to seeing around me, but that's what I appreciate about her. What a big house you have." Gaining courage, Emily announced the living room with a glance. "It must be worth a lot of money." "Great. My grandmother and I have a small house. And the furniture." She was genuinely admiring the furnishings. "I don't even want to hurt it." Playing her role, she began to look with interest at the paintings hanging on the walls. Paintings, she touched one. Never understood why to buy them. There is no use from them, only collect dust. Paintings are aesthetically useful, if you know what I mean, grumbled Father spitefully, looking at the girl. "They should be admired, eh?" Emily looked around again. "Why is the vase on the floor?" The girl touched it. "Careful, my dear," Kathy exclaimed warningly. "It's a 16th century vase. It can't be. And how well preserved is it?" "Wow. I've only seen these in history books." The parents were pathetic to look at. Robert chuckled to himself, but didn't interfere. I suggest we sit at the table. My father resolutely went to his seat. Oh, really? I'm so confused. Kathy had the servants bring the hot pot. Emily, what do you do? I work on the farm. And where did you and our son meet? In a nightclub, wasn't it? What do you think? That if I'm from the country, I'm so dark? No, I don't think so. My mother was embarrassed. Do you live with your grandmother? Where are your parents? They died in a car accident. I'm so sorry, we didn't know. Oh, it's okay. It was a long time ago. I don't really remember them. We're serving meat. Emily, pretending to be an uneducated hillbilly, grabbed a fork and hurriedly began to eat the meat. When she noticed Kathy's horrified look on her face, she was embarrassed. I'm sorry. With her mouth full, she said, Am I doing something wrong? Take your time, take the knife. That's not the way to behave at the table here. Robert said in a deliberately loud voice, Oh, I didn't know. The fork accidentally fell out of the girl's hands right on the floor. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up. She's blushing. I'm so clumsy. That's okay. No. Emily jumped up. I'll clean up my own mess. I'm used to doing everything myself. That's commendable, of course, but in our house we have special people to do it. Kathy remarked and pressed her lips together. Robert was having fun. Wow. I'd already believed she was so inept. Now her parents will definitely do everything they can to get rid of her. When the maid had cleaned up the floor and everyone had finally settled down, Sebastian spoke. It's nice in your village, the fresh air, the freedom. My childhood was spent in the countryside with my grandmother, too. That's true. Looking at him dreamily, Emily answered. But I want to move to the city as soon as possible. As soon as I get married to Robert, I will not stay a day in the village. Your house is big enough room for everyone. It's good that you don't have to rent an apartment. A lot of our girls work for an apartment. Do you know how expensive it is to rent an apartment nowadays? And I was lucky, yes, my favorite. She smiled sweetly at the young man. Well, maybe you will not be very comfortable to live with us. Cautiously asked the mother. Usually young people try to live away from their parents. Why not? You've got a big place to dance. We don't even have to see each other. We'll take a part of the second floor, for example. Surely there's an emergency exit in the house. She hummed in satisfaction when her father nodded his head, confirming her guess. But our villagers will have one when I tell them what a fancy house I'll be living in. Even having a baby won't be a problem. Robert will hire a nanny, and we've put them in a separate room next to you. Oh, I love it here. I'd move in right now. Too bad Grandma will be alone. Maybe you have a room for her too. We'll find a room for her. Oh, we'll all live here. Robert realized from the confused look on his parents' faces that it was time to end the show. He was afraid of overdoing it. I'm sorry, he said, rising from the table. But we should get going. I have to take Emily home, and then I have some errands to run. Everyone stood up. I apologize if I did something wrong, Emily said. She was terribly ashamed of her behavior. She was intelligent, well-mannered, and could hardly restrain herself not to immediately confess everything to her unhappy and frightened parents. I'm very glad Robert has such a good mom and dad. Goodbye, smiling politely. The parents walked the young people to the car and breathed a sigh of relief as they drove away from the house. What was that all about? The father inquired. Where did he get this country girl from? He always liked glamorous girls. I expected a bright blonde with plump lips and a tight dress that left no room for imagination. And this, Kathy said thoughtfully, there's something about her. Yes, she's different, but you've noticed, Father, she's not lost her shyness and blushing. It's so unusual. That's the first thing I noticed, by the way, but I kept quiet. So what do we do now? We'll see. While the parents were at a loss as to why their son had brought to their house a girl who was not suitable for him, young people sat in the car, looked at each other, and finally gave vent to their stifling laughter. "You're so imaginative." Robert laughed. "I almost didn't believe that you were really so ill-mannered and that you were using me to get out of town. You have no idea." Laughing to the point of tears, said Emily. "How ashamed I was to behave like that. I'm not like that at all. And there are no such people in my neighborhood. I just remembered the heroine of some show and copied her behavior. Hey, have you ever thought about being an actress? You could play such an idiot on stage. I did it." The girl grew serious. "Only for her grandmother's sake. I hope I don't have to meet your parents again. I don't want to deceive them again. I was immediately disgusted to take part in your play." "Don't worry about it," the young man said lightly. "I'm sure they will already today forbid me to communicate with you even close. You've done your job. When do I get the money?" "As soon as my parents demand that I break up with you immediately, I will immediately transfer the amount to your account. No offense, but I need to make sure we're on the same page." When Robert returned home, he expected his parents to attack him with righteous anger, but nothing happened. They locked themselves away. The young man grinned, probably cleaning up his feelings about Emily. "Okay, I won't go to them. Let them calm down, think it over. Let's leave the conversation until morning." He went quietly to his room, and confident that his plan had worked, fell into a deep sleep. "Son?" 2 days later, Sebastian reminded him. "My mother and I have decided to have a celebration on the occasion of our 30th anniversary together. We have already ordered dinner at our favorite restaurant. I congratulate you." Robert was worried. "That's right," solemnly announced the father. "Mother and I want to see you with Emily, of course." "What about Emily?" The young man was stunned. "I thought you didn't want her in our house anymore." Sebastian knew his son very well, so he realized at once that he was up to something, but he couldn't figure out what. "She's certainly peculiar," the man said, "but she's very open and kind, no matter how strange it may seem." The mother interjected. "We liked her." "Of course," added the father. "We'll have to work with her a little to teach her some basic table manners, say, but it's all such trifles. The main thing is that she's sincere." "Robert, how many grades of education does she have?" 11, mechanically answered the young man. He suddenly realized that his plan had failed miserably. "That's wonderful," Kathy exclaimed. "We'll hire tutors and prepare her for college. She seemed a little silly to me at first, but I was shocked by her behavior at the table. But then my father and I discussed it all and realized her directness and ingenuousness were to blame, and it can be cured." The woman laughed. "But it is impossible to teach kindness and openness." "I agree with my mother. It is rare to meet such girls nowadays. She only needs a little dressing up and makeup. With your permission, I'll do it myself. It needs a woman's hand. I'll do everything. I'll pick out dresses for her in advance. I'll enroll her in a beauty parlor. We'll make a real gem of an evening out of her." "I think," discreetly, Robert remarked, "she won't agree to go to the beauty parlor with you, and she won't accept the dress. You don't know girls. They're ready to store all day long. And you don't know Emily," parried Robert. "What a bastard!" he thought angrily. His insides were boiling with indignation. "It seems my plan has really failed. I've missed something. But I won't give up so easily." As he left the house, he immediately started calling Emily. "They like you." He boiled. I didn't expect them to like you. They really believe that you are my fiancé. Who's here?" Emily asked, nodding her head at the young man and girl who had entered the room. "This is my friend David. Shit." Robert cursed. "What bad timing." "David?" Kathy smiled. "Why are you, dear, late?" The woman picked up the young man with one hand and the girl with the other and led him over to Emily and Robert. "You probably haven't met Emily yet, have you? This is our son's fiancé. He has kept her so carefully hidden from us, he's no good." The girl saw David's eyes open wide in surprise. He had already opened his mouth to say something when Robert interrupted his friend. "David, I have something urgent to discuss with you. Shall we? Explain what's going on." David stared at him in bewilderment. "Who is this girl? And why is your mother calling her your fiancée? I thought she was your fiancée, Kelly. What, did you trade her for this one?" He nodded his head toward Emily and wrinkled his nose. "I don't know how you could get involved with her and bring her here. Are you out of your mind? Shut up." Robert stopped his friend. "It's not what you think." And he told me about the bride his parents had set him up with and the pact with Emily. "So she's making this play in front of her parents just for the money?" "Yes, and I'm begging you not to tell anyone, especially Kelly. She can't know anything." "Swear you won't say anything." "I swear," promised David. "But I don't suppose your mother would mind a bride like that, would she?" "That's the trouble. We agreed that Emily would get drunk, which would make her parents angry, but now I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't bother them. I can help you." "How?" "I'll seduce her in front of everyone. I don't think Kathy and Sebastian can forgive her for cheating on them. Just don't go overboard. I don't want a scandal." "Don't worry, you'll see a little flirting, and then in front of your parents, I'll steal her away. They're smart people, they'll know why we're going to be alone. How do you like that idea?" "It's not a bad idea." Robert said hesitantly, "Will my fiancée fall for it? Maybe I should warn her." "Let her play along." "Absolutely not. It has to look natural." "Are you questioning my ability to seduce girls?" With a conspiratorial wink at his friend, David headed over to Emily. "Emily?" He decided to take the bull by the horns. "You're adorable. May I have this dance?" "Oh." She was embarrassed and looked anxiously back at Robert. "I can't dance." "Oh, that's all right. We'll fix that." In fact, I think Robert will mind. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I entertained his fiancée a little. "I can see you've been bored." He put his arm around her and led her to the dance floor. David put one hand on her back and the other below her waist. "I don't like you hugging me too frivolously," Emily said sternly to her partner. She was already drunk, but she realized that her friend Robert was up to something indecent. "Come on," roughly said David right in her ear. "I know everything. You don't have to pretend with me. I can see right through people like you. Robert, I know you're easily seduced, doll, and your fiancé's parents must realize that, so you'll have to play along. I'm sure it won't be too hard for you, though. Robert's not your first hookup, is he? Come on, give me a big hug. If you start getting handsy." She gave him a threatening look, Emily. "I'm not responsible for myself. I might punch you. I doubt anyone can stop me from doing that. We have to look natural for my friend's parents to believe that you're just a corrupt wench and can get carried away with anyone, especially when drunk. I've seen you with a glass of wine, and Robert's parents saw it too. Now I'm gonna have to kiss you, so let's not disappoint them. Just try it." With indignation, she gritted her teeth. "You'll have to be patient, otherwise no one will believe that you are easy to seduce." With these words, he sank his lips into hers. And now the next act of the play awaits the audience. It's time for us to get some privacy." Emily swayed slightly, not firmly followed David, accompanied by the perplexed looks of Robert's parents. Emily didn't care what they thought of her. In the morning, she opened her eyes with difficulty. Her head ached and her mouth felt as dry as the Sahara. She struggled to get out of bed and went to the kitchen. She drank a glass of water and looked into her grandmother's room. "Why are you lying down?" she asked her. "Are you sick? Maybe an ambulance? What's wrong with you, granddaughter?" The grandmother asked anxiously. "I've never seen you like this in my life. Why did you get drunk? I was so scared when they brought you in the car. You didn't look like yourself. Disheveled, I couldn't say a word. I had another heart attack, and today I can't get up. I'm sorry, Grandma, for upsetting you. I'm so ashamed, really. Why did you do that? Did I teach you to do that? And it's so embarrassing in front of the neighbors. But please forgive me. I'm really worried about you. How can you stay here alone? I don't have long to live. God forbid if you get addicted to drink. Who will support you?" "What's wrong, Grandma?" Emily sat on the edge of the bed next to the old woman. "That was the first and last time. And you're not going to die. We'll definitely think of something." "No, you can't help me now. How are we going to get the money for the operation? I'll live as long as God gives me. I wish you'd get better. I don't want to leave with a heavy heart. I just want to know that you found your happiness. Otherwise, you'll be all alone." Jenna leaned back on the pillow. "I'm tired. You go, I'll sleep a little." Emily went back to her room, lay down on the bed and thought. What to do? With Robert, the idea did not work out. Why did she even agree to participate in this adventure? For my grandmother's sake, of course, only for her. But now I can't take money from him. I don't need anything from him at all. The girl jumped out of bed and went to the window. "I like him." Suddenly she confessed. "Oh my God!" Emily grabbed her head. "What am I thinking? How can I, a country girl, dream of such a guy? He's got a fiancée. She's a match for me. Will he pay attention to me? He's probably forgotten my name by now. That's what I should do. Don't look at other people's fiancés. That's all." She shook her head. It is necessary to throw out bad thoughts and continue to live as before. All these acquaintances with the sons of rich parents has not brought happiness to anyone. I need to think about work and my grandmother. Yes, it's decided, she said firmly to herself. I will never agree to meet him again. I must stop all communication with him before I finally lost my head. Forget it like a bad dream. Emily? Jenna looked out the window one night and said, "What's that car parked in front of our house?" "It's a stranger." "Strange? Who could it be?" "You don't know?" "I know. The girl's a little gloomy. I'll find out." She went out into the street with a shawl over her shoulders. "Why did you come here?" She spoke sharply. "I told you not to bother my grandmother. Why didn't you call? You can't say everything on the phone, and I have no one else to talk to." Robert confessed, approaching her. "The whole plan is down the drain. David, my so-called friend," he grinned wryly. "He'd dropped in on my parents by accident, and he'd said so much. I didn't expect it from him. He set me up. He said that you were only with me for money, and he told me that a couple months ago I had another girl. I don't know what to do now. How do I face my parents?" The best part. Emily looked boldly at Robert. "Explain yourself to your parents. Stop lying. They don't deserve to be treated like this. Confess everything. It'll be easier on yourself. I'm sure they'll understand you. They're not animals. They're just wishing you happiness, not realizing you have a sweetheart. No, no, no. I can't tell them everything right now. You said you'd help, so you have to follow through. Don't count on me. The girl replied firmly, "I refuse to take part in this farce. I've done so much already. This is for your amusement, and I have no time to play with toys. I have to think about where to find money for my grandmother's operation. Leave me alone. Don't worry about it. I'm ready to pay for your grandma's treatment. Give me an account to transfer the money to." "But I didn't keep my end of the bargain." I don't care anymore. If I say I'll help you without conditions." "Well, I don't know." Emily's confused. "I don't feel comfortable taking money from you, so David's right. David is a traitor. I don't know why he even got involved in this case, but I'll figure it out. Tell me where to wire the money, and I will do it immediately." Jenna's operation was a success. It was done as soon as the money came in. "Everything's going well," the attending physician remarked. "Your grandmother will be back home as good as new." "Thank you, doctor." Grandma was on the mend. The girl was flying on wings until one day the phone rang. "Emily?" One day she heard the phone ring. "It's Kathy, Robert's mom. Remember me? You were at our house and then at the restaurant where you disappeared so suddenly with David?" "Yes, of course I remember. Hello." "Orobev," the girl replied, "I forbid you to mess with my son's head. I know that you decided to marry Robert for the money, and I know that you have already received a tidy sum on your account. Well, I don't want you anywhere near my son anymore. You got your money in your pocket. Leave Robert alone. Shame on you for covering up for Grandma's illness." "But the girl tried to explain. "I'm not going to listen to your lies. It is you with your beauty and supposed innocence turned my son's head, but I will not be fooled. I know you're kind. I forbid you to come within a cannon shot of my son. If you try anything else to trick him, I'll go to the police." "You're a fraud. That's not true. You're wrong. I don't want to hear a word of it. You got the money, disappeared, broke Robert's heart. And how nice you seemed to Sebastian and me. But in fact, you turned out to be a calculating hypocrite. You've gained our trust, so that your foot in our house will not be in our house anymore." Emily, discouraged by the call, listened silently to the short beeps in the receiver. "What did you want?" she said, trying to hold back her tears. Everything had happened as planned. Now for the real bride, Robert. The road is clear. We have achieved our goal. And me. The girl threw the phone on the table and cried. Robert walked from corner to corner, measuring the room with his steps, glancing nervously at his watch. "It's time to go to the airport," he remarked. "I can't be late and not meet Kelly on time." He quickly got into the car. "Kelly?" He opened his arms to the girl. "I didn't expect you to come now. You were going to be home in 2 months, weren't you? This is for you." He handed her a bouquet of red roses. "What's wrong? You're the one I should be asking. What happened?" Coldly, the girl answered him. "I don't know what you mean. David called me and told me you had another fiancé. You think I was supposed to sit around and wait for you to marry her? I demand an explanation. Why are you listening to him?" Robert laughed nervously. "He's always been jealous of me. I think he told you that on purpose so that you would leave me. Don't you know he's jealous of you? He was just waiting for a chance to break us up. I don't really have any other fiancé but you." "You mean?" The girl looked at him suspiciously. "He's making it all up?" "Not exactly." Robert hesitated. "Why don't we sit down somewhere and I'll explain it all to you?" "All right." Kelly agreed reluctantly. "But that doesn't mean I've forgiven you." The young people arrived at the restaurant. Robert ordered dinner. "Look, I did it for us. My parents had the idea of marrying me off to the daughter of a friend of my father's. They wanted to boost business, but they forgot to ask me if I wanted to marry her. What was I supposed to do? I came up with a plan, and Emily came along. Oh, so the girl David was talking about was a girl? I'm not saying no. She must have turned my parents against me. They would have forbidden me to marry her. I would naturally be in inconsolable grief for some time, until my father relented and gave me permission to marry the one I had long considered my fiancée. You do not deceive me. Kelly looked at him jealously. Was it all like this? Of course it was. Why would I deceive you? Everything I do is just for you and me. And the money? Did you really pay her? I did. She kept her end of the bargain, but most importantly, the plan worked, and now I can introduce you to your parents. When were you going to tell me all this? I was expecting you in 2 months. I couldn't have said anything over the phone. You wouldn't have talked to me. Now do you believe that I didn't cheat on you? Tell me, am I forgiven? I haven't decided yet. The beauty said haughtily, when you introduce me to your parents, then we'll see. Robert's decision to talk to his parents was not easy. Mom, Dad, when the moment was right, he said, I have something to confess to you. What is it? I have to tell you that Emily is not my fiancée. I lied to you. What, not your fiancée? Kathy was shocked by the message. Then who is? I met her by accident. She scratched my car. Since she didn't have the money to fix it, I offered to help her out a little. What kind of game are you playing? Dad frowned. I don't want to marry the girl you insist on marrying. In fact, I have a fiancée, and I love her very much. Wait, so everything that's been going on here lately is a hoax, an act? The mother looked at Robert in confusion. And who is this girl really? Her name is really Emily. She really lives in the countryside, but she has a college degree. She is a veterinarian. But she pretended to be your fiancée for money. She did it to save her grandmother, not for profit. Her grandmother needed heart surgery, so we made a deal. She helps me, and I help her. Do you realize I said some pretty nasty things to her on the phone? Kathy, pale as chalk, was furious with her son. I accused the poor girl of God knows what, and I didn't even give her a chance to defend herself. What position have you put us in? For God's sake, tell me, how is she doing? I haven't seen her in a long time. But have you even tried calling her? Many times, but she doesn't answer and ignores my messages. Why are you doing this, Robert? Sebastian looked angrily at his son. Couldn't you have come and told her you didn't want to get married? I couldn't. Robert was desperate. You've been running around with that bride of yours like a piece of paper, praising her, telling everyone about your upcoming wedding. What would you say to me, Papa, if I came and said I didn't want to marry that girl? I wanted to marry this girl. Would you have listened to me? I had to cheat, and you involved an innocent girl in your schemes. Anyway, now you know everything. I'd like you to meet my real fiancée, Kelly. She just got back from overseas. No way. Father cut me off. Stop us from making new acquaintances. You better deal with your fiancés first. Mom. Robert turned to her, looking for support. Father's right. Kathy said thoughtfully, when you're sure you're ready to marry her, you can bring her to our house. We don't want to witness any more of your love dramas, and we're not ready to get to know Kelly. Parents, I didn't expect this from you. Robert was desperate. Now he was afraid that Kelly would take offense at his refusal to introduce her to her father and mother. Now this topic is no longer discussed in our house. Sebastian said firmly. Robert thought how to explain himself to Kelly and was afraid of this conversation. However, the girl did not even ask when the meeting with her parents would take place. She, having returned to her homeland, immediately plunged into social life and completely captured the attention of the young man. Robert, the parents were offended. We do not see you at all. I have almost no free time," justified the son. "Kelly doesn't like to stay at home. We then in the club at midnight, then at a restaurant for dinner, and in the afternoon I work. I don't have much time to sleep, and there's no time to go out. She'll drive you crazy. Mother was worried. I really missed her." Robert smiled. Even a minute without her seems irretrievably lost. The young man was being sly. He did not want to admit that the relationship with his beloved was not so cloudless. "Kelly, I'm so glad you're here," he said, admiring his bride. "I'm glad too." She pouted her lips. "But do you know what it cost me to cancel my contract? I've lost so much money, you can't even imagine." "Darling, I'm prepared to reimburse you for all your losses. Ask for anything you want." "Well, I don't know." She raised her eyes to the sky, showing that she was very concerned about the choice of gift. "I've been wanting a new car for a long time. Mine is too simple for your fiancé status. You should be ashamed of yourself." She wagged her finger playfully and winked slyly at the young man. "For having such an old model of car. Okay, let's go to the car dealership tomorrow and buy the one you want." "Honey," Kelly squealed, "you're such a sweetheart. I adore you. This is gonna be the best present ever. I'd forgive you anything for it." The next day they went shopping. "I want this one." Kelly pointed her finger at an expensive SUV. "Why do you need such a huge car?" Robert tried to talk her out of it. "Why don't we find you something more feminine? Just say you didn't have the money." Kelly folded her arms across her chest and turned away from her fiancé. She'd always been cranky, but she'd never disliked that behavior before. Now, however, Robert found himself increasingly annoyed by her petulance. He glimpsed the manager, his face devoid of any emotion, but with a sneer in his eyes. "You gave $50,000 to some girl, and you spared me your fiancé. Why do I have to beg you for gifts? Explain. A real man never refuses his woman anything. Or maybe you've had enough of me. You know I'm not. Calm down, please. You don't have to make a scene here. I'll buy this car. If you like it so much, to please you, I'll take a star out of the sky. No offense." He kissed her on her cheek, which was blushing with annoyance, and nodded to the manager, who was watching the lovers with a nonchalant look. That evening they sat at a table in the restaurant and discussed the purchase. "Honey, I'm so grateful to you for this regal gift. I've already posted a photo of the car on my social media page. I've never gotten so many likes before. The phone does not seize, they call, asking when it will be possible to ride on my Swallow." "Listen, Kelly, I'm gonna need your help soon," interrupted Robert's enthusiastic exclamation. "I have a dinner with a business partner in 3 days. He'll be with his wife, and I need your presence. Darling, can you hear me?" He called out to the girl, who was deftly typing on her phone. "What?" She looked at the groom unhappily, reluctantly, breaking away from her occupation. "Eh? No, sorry, I cannot. Aren't you at all interested in what I do?" "Honey, it's so boring." She wrinkled her nose and looked at the phone again. "I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to leave." "Where?" "We haven't even had lunch yet. My agent texted me." Standing up from the table, Kelly said, "There's a casting call coming up. I can't miss it. I need new contracts. Bye, sweetie." She sent him an air kiss and ran off. "I think." The young man watched thoughtfully as his fiancée quickly got into the car, on the go, talking to someone on the phone. "Kelly, all you need from me is money." She had changed a lot since returning home. She used to be interested in the firm's business. And her temper tantrums, no, we've had fights before, but somehow it doesn't irritate me the way it does now. It feels like she's playing a role, and it turns out It's not sincere. Can't she still forgive me for Emily? It's my fault, of course, but she should realize that this whole stupid situation with the fake bride is long over. That evening, Kelly called Robert and said, "Honey, I'm ready to go out with your partner or whoever, but only on one condition. You give me a necklace. I bought a dress suitable for such a dinner, but my jewelry looks too plain with it." "All right." The young man immediately agreed. "We'll be sure to buy you a necklace. We'll meet at the jewelry salon tomorrow." My heart pricked unpleasantly. Emily would never put conditions on me. She would immediately agree to go with me. Stop! What am I thinking? The young man blushed involuntarily. How easy and simple everything was with Emily, how sincere and heartfelt she was. I had fun and freedom with her. I thought she even liked me. He involuntarily smiled, remembering the cute features of the girl's face, her long hair, simple dress, which sat well on her slender figure. The next day at the jewelry store, Kelly made another disgusted scene. "This necklace will not go with your dress." The saleswoman patiently explained to the girl, "You are thin, and on your chest jewelry will look bulky. Do you realize what you're saying? How dare you embarrass me in front of my fiancé? Who the hell do you think you are? You stupid, brainless chicken." Kelly was outraged. "No, how insolent is that? Robert, she just insulted me, called me skinny, and said that the necklace doesn't fit me." "Kelly," Robert said gently, trying to calm the furious bride, "why don't you look at another one? Just to compare. I think the salesman's right." "I get it." Kelly glared angrily. "You felt sorry for my money because I picked the most expensive necklace? And I didn't really want to buy anything from you guys. I don't want anything. And I'm not going to the appointment. Okay, that stupid sales girl just made me look stupid. But you, Robert, how could you question my taste? Can't I decide what kind of jewelry to match my dress? I'm sorry, my love. If you want, we can buy this necklace." The incident was over, but relations between the young people were getting worse. And more often at such moments, Robert thought of Emily and caught himself thinking that he missed her. "Son," Kathy asked me one day, "when are you going to introduce us to your bride? It's been so long. You don't say a word. Your father doesn't want to talk about it. And what can I do? I want grandchildren. Stop resenting each other. Are you and Kelly coming over for dinner tomorrow night?" Kathy made sure the table was properly set. "The cook has prepared a gourmet meal." "What are you doing here?" "It's like we're hosting royalty." A model, what a profession. Sebastian was angry with his wife. "I don't want to make a fool of myself," she told her husband. The girl lived abroad, accustomed to good cuisine. I wish I had hired a chef from the restaurant. However, our chef also knows a thing or two about food. That's my Kelly. Robert introduced his fiancée to the parents. The girl looked arrogantly at the owners of the house and gritted her teeth. "Hello, I thought you had a bigger house. Robert, he's been buzzing my ears about what a great house you have." "I think so." Sebastian replied discreetly. "There's plenty of room for everyone. But we're not going to live here anyway, are we, love?" She smiled at Robert. "I hope my future husband will buy a house for us. Can we go to the table now? I'm starving." Kathy replied confusedly. "Yes, come in. Everything's ready." Kelly looked at the table and sat down at the table. "I've lived abroad. They don't serve too many dishes. We didn't come here to eat. I can't eat too much. I have to keep in shape. I think it's very irrational to spend so much money on food. But I have men in my house," justified the hostess. "They are used to eating well. And you, dear Kathy." The guest remarked, It would be good to look after your figure. After all age, it's time to think about your health. Kelly softly pulled her Robert. You're being defiant. What did I say? She shrugged. Every self-respecting woman should strive to keep young. That's abroad do not make a cult of food. They're watch out for health and appearance. Kelly is right, of course. Barely holding back her tears, her mother said, I do love to eat, and being overweight is ruining me. I actually think, the girl spoke again, it's much better to have these dinners in a restaurant. No dishes, no hassle around the house. I'm not going to spend most of my life in the kitchen. Robert and I will eat at restaurants. Can't we talk about something else? Dad broke the silence. When are you getting married? We haven't talked to Kelly about it yet. Robert was embarrassed. The wedding can wait. Kelly looked sternly at the groom. I've signed a new contract, very favorable and promising for my career, and I'm not going to lose it. What about the grandchildren? Kathy asked shyly. I was so dreaming that you would soon have a little one. Oh, she waved her hands. I don't even think about that. A baby would put an end to my modeling career. No way. No kids while you're young. The age of the model is short. When I'm closer to 40, I can think about children. And in general, diapers, cradles, it's not for me. Kelly's cell phone screen suddenly lit up. She quickly read the message. I'm sorry, but we have to go. She stood up. Honey, will you walk me out? All the way the young people were silent. When the car stopped in front of Kelly's house, the girl suddenly threw a tantrum. What kids? Are they out of their minds? How did your parents even think of having kids? You already promised I'd give them a grandchild. What makes you think I'm ready to marry you right now? I didn't promise anything, justified Robert, confused by his friend's sudden outburst of indignation. We were going to get married, weren't we? You've been acting really weird with your parents, insulting your mom. Why? Because I can't stand it when people make decisions for me. My career comes first, and I'm not going to turn down an opportunity to make a lot of money. I mean, you've been sparing me every little thing. I'm used to not giving up anything. I already lost a very lucrative contract because of you. I had to pay a penalty. So maybe we should just break up. It seems like I'm just a nuisance to you. Why are you being so adamant? Kelly, realizing she'd overreacted, tried to ease the tension. I'm not refusing to marry you. You know what? Without listening to her, Robert proposed, I'll buy you a plane ticket. Go, renew your contract. I don't think it's impossible. I'll even reimburse you for all your expenses. I've only just realized that we're not right for each other. You're probably right. Kelly was quick to agree. As long as you're paying for everything, I'm willing to break up. The quickness with which his now ex-fiancée accepted the payoff alerted Robert, but he didn't bother to find out what she was up to. His thoughts were already turned to someone else. Emily had gone to take care of her grandmother. The old woman recovered slowly after the operation, but the doctors reassured her that everything was going as it should. The girl had no time to indulge in sad thoughts, but sometimes she still gave vent to tears. Probably Robert had already married his model. Emily silently swallowed her tears, pressing her face into the pillow. What did you want? She asked herself. You're no match for him. Who is he and who are you? We should forget it, put it out of our minds. We could never be together anyway. Suddenly the phone rang. Emily shuddered, her heart racing, a ghostly hope flickering somewhere in the back of her mind. She jumped up, grabbed the receiver. It was strange. Who could it be? The girl looked disappointedly at the unfamiliar digits. Listening? Cautiously, she muttered. Hello, I'm Robert's fiancée." Hearing Emily, she was overcome with misgivings. "I know that you, taking advantage of the gullibility of my fiancé, swindled him out of a huge sum of money. He simply believed it was for your sick grandmother. Robert did give it to me, and my grandmother has already had surgery. I haven't misused a dime of it, but it's our family's money. You insolent country girl, how could you ask Robert for money? And when are you going to give it back?" "Robert knows that I have no way to return the money," the girl answered quietly. "Tell you what, I'm not Robert, and I'm not going to let you give away $50,000 to who knows who and why. We're getting married soon. We need that money for the wedding, but I don't have anywhere to get it. Not my concern. I'll give you 3 days to pay me back in full, but I didn't borrow it from you. Robert and I will decide how to pay it back. I know how you'll work it out. He'll be too embarrassed to demand it from you. He'll prefer to forgive it. That's why he asked me to deal with you." "Robert did. Of course, he'd never do it himself, but I won't let him waste our money. You'll pay it all back, and don't you dare call my fiancé. He's not the only one who decides where to spend the family's money. I am the owner, so I expect the full amount in 3 days." Emily heard a short, ringing tone. Kelly hung up. The girl looked at the phone in horror. "Where will I find such money?" In despair, she exclaimed, "It's impossible to raise that amount in 3 days. Granddaughter?" She heard her grandmother's worried voice. "What's wrong? Grandma?" Emily, in tears, entered the old woman's room. "I don't know what to do. Robert's fiancé just called, demanded the money back, and gave me only 3 days to do it. What are we supposed to do? It's a disaster. It's easier to die than to try to pay back such a sum. Our whole village isn't worth that much." "Wait," Jenna stopped her. "What does this have to do with Robert's fiancé? If you took money from him, have you talked to him yet?" "No, she forbade him to call, said he couldn't ask me for it. So she took it upon herself to get us out of debt." "That's weird. That didn't sound like Robert at all." The older woman said thoughtfully, "Call him, ask him to wait, and then he volunteered to help. Something's not right here. Call him, let him tell you why he needs money so suddenly." Emily thought for a moment, then hesitantly dialed a familiar number. "Emily?" she heard. "Is something wrong with Grandma?" "Hello." "Grandma's fine. I'm calling to ask for an extension. We can't raise all the money in such a short time. You know my salary is small." "Wait, I don't know what you're talking about." "What are you talking about?" "Kelly, your fiancé, called me and demanded that I pay her back because I need the money for the wedding." "Kelly called you?" "Yeah, she said you asked her to talk to me, and we're all at a loss as to what to do. I can't even get a loan from the bank for that kind of money. I didn't ask her to do anything like that." He was silent. Emily could only hear his heavy breathing in the tube. "That's what, don't do anything, and calm your grandmother down. I'll solve everything and call you back." Robert, outraged and confused, went to his friend David for advice on how to put his exploding ex-fiancée in her place. "Robert?" David clearly wasn't expecting to see his friend. "Come in." The young man went into the kitchen, followed by the landlord. "What a surprise!" he exclaimed when he saw his ex-fiancée. "And I just wanted to talk to you. What are you doing here? I thought you had already packed your bags and left. You're wasting your time with David. He doesn't have the money to support you." "Robert?" David was nervous. "You've got it all wrong. Kelly came to me for advice." "I wonder what advice you gave her." Making himself comfortable at the table, Robert asked, "How to get me back?" "You don't have to try. It won't work. I'm even glad it's over between us. I realize that I never really loved you. I never loved you." The girl cried out and sobbed. She was fired from her job, the friend said. She stayed there as long as there was money and as long as she hoped that. David looked guiltily at Robert. Her young man would come back to her. "Yes, yes, 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 I'm in love. He's 1,000 times better than you. He's so beautiful. That's who I truly loved." Kelly cried through her tears. She kept him all this time, and when the money ran out, she had to come back to you. And she pulled money out of me until I realized that my fiancé came back from abroad, a completely different person, and decided to break up with her. "Did you tell me everything?" The girl looked at David angrily. "And now tell your friend how you offered to deceive him and get a tidy sum for it." "What?" Robert was stunned. "David, what is she talking about?" "Oh, yes." The young man blushed. "I suggested that she call Emily and demand that she pay back what she owed. It's your own fault." He lashed out at his friend. "He gave some girl all that money. Kelly was your fiancée, but she couldn't even dream of that kind of money." "It's my family's money," Robert said, looking at David menacingly. "I decide what to do with it. She didn't tell you about the new SUV, about the diamond necklace I bought not too long ago. Was that not enough for her? No, she didn't talk about your gifts." The young man shrank under his friend's scornful gaze. "You know, I'm not even upset that you, Kelly, lied to me. Not only did you hide the fact that you lost your job and fell in love with someone else, you opened my eyes. And I'm grateful for that. Even ready to the plane ticket, add the amount for rent for a month, consider it compensation for not making a scandal at the breakup. But that's it. Let your lover support you now. Bye, guys." He got up from the table and headed for the exit. "Have a nice stay." "Robert, where are you going?" David asked him. "To a place where I am truly loved, not for money, just because I am me." The young man got into the car. All the way he smiled, imagining that soon he would hug his beloved. "Robert?" Emily jumped out into the street, noticing the familiar car. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see you," he answered simply. "What about your wedding?" The girl asked confusedly. "There will be one. You will marry me, won't you?" He took out of his pocket a ring of white and yellow gold, decorated with small diamonds, and put it on her finger. "It's only thanks to you that I realized what true love is. What about your fiancée? She's flying to her lover's house the other day. I'm not even angry with her because I never loved her. I got used to her. She was always there, bright, beautiful, but her beauty was false. You taught me to see a different kind of beauty, a soulful beauty. With you, it's like I've been cured of a serious illness. And now I stand before you and ask you to be my wife. Do you accept?" "Yes, I do. I love you." Emily threw herself on his neck, hugged him, and there was no need to hide her feelings. She looked at her chosen one with happy eyes. "I love you." Robert leaned down and kissed the girl. Jenna looked at them from the window and smiled. The elderly woman crossed the young couple 3 times and whispered softly, "God bless."
Subscribe and click the bell.
Ouch! Maria jumped out of her chair. "What are you doing?" "It hurts." She took a wide step to the side, rubbing her eye, leaving the makeup artist with an untrusting look. "What am I paying money for?" The makeup girl rolled her eyes. She tried to put on a friendly smile, but it turned out to be quite unbelievable. Her plump lips folded into narrow stripes, her eyes narrowed in a wicked squint. "I'm sorry, it's just that you're such a difficult customer, and there's a lot of pressure. Just sit tight, and it won't happen again. I promise." She made a conciliatory gesture with her hand. inviting the disgruntled client back into the chair. "Go back to your seat, please." Maria staggered back. She immediately lowered her eyes in embarrassment with her hand, reaching up to touch her face. The makeup artist shrieked, "Don't touch the face." She joined Maria, gently took her under the arm, forcing her back into the chair. "I spent so much time evening out my tone." Never touch your face during makeup. Never touch your face at all. It's bad for your skin. She lowered her voice by half a tone, especially in your case. Maria obediently sat down in the chair. The makeup artist's words hurt her, but she tried not to show it. Maria took a deep breath, quietly exhaled into the air, replied, "Okay, but be careful. You almost took away my eye with that brush. If you continue like this, or if I don't like the result, I won't pay for the makeup." Keep that in mind. The makeup artist is visibly pissed off. Stop fidgeting in that case. Are you such a difficult customer? Maria got angry in response. "I can't help but fidget when I'm wearing so much foundation. Any more and I just choke on it. Apply it evenly, then I'll sit still. You're supposed to be a professional. You're a girl, I didn't get a chance to finish." A makeup brush flew to her right eye again. She jumped up from her seat again and shouted, "What the hell is this? Are you going to calm down or not?" Replied the makeup artist, losing her patience. "You need to talk less. Just let me finish my work." She threw the brush down roughly. A table nearby, she closed her hands in her hair, glancing upward. "I can't use less foundation in your case, I can't, especially with your requests." Maria's heart skipped a couple of thuds. She was silent for a while, trying to pull herself together. Her knees trembled with resentment. "What do you think you're doing?" "Me?" She stopped halfway through. A lump came to her throat. "What right do you have to comment on my appearance? Who asked your advice? You're behaving inappropriately." The makeup artist, realizing that the makeup would probably never be finished, and the client would probably leave the beauty salon with hysterics soon, decided to answer as she wanted. "You were told right away that in your case makeup will not help." She turned away from Maria, unable to look at that face any longer. "Look at yourself. I can't hide all this horror. I'm sorry, but no amount of foundation will help. Scars like that can only be removed with a laser, not makeup. And that picture of the girl you showed me? Neither I nor anyone else can make you look that beautiful. Let's face it." Maria was stunned. Throughout her life, she had not once had to listen to caustic and not always pleasant comments about her external data. But what would that be? And even in a beauty salon, the girl abruptly turned around and headed towards the exit. Sorry, I thought the makeup artist," but her words dissolved in the walls of the hall, without reaching their addressee. Maria, unable to hold her tears in herself any longer, jumped out of the beauty salon, not even having time to complain about the rudeness of the master to the administrator. Maria walked through the park towards her home, choking on her tears. Already applied, but not yet fixed foundation crawled over her face in layers. Her small eyes, covered by the newest eyelid, were reddened with tears, and the day was off to such a good start. A couple of weeks ago, Maria met a handsome man on the internet. After chatting for a while, the young people realized that they liked each other, and the latter decided to invite the girl he liked to a restaurant for a date. The fact that Maria worked as a chef in the restaurant where the date was set, Maria did not say. Nor did she say that all the pictures she had posted on the dating site were not really hers. Maria had never been particularly beautiful. The short, full-figured girl had always had a lot of complexes about her appearance. It seemed to her that her arms were too short in relation to her body. Her eyes seemed to be too small and her ears too protruding, bursting through her liquid hair. Her lips seemed too thin, her anus too big. She even thought that her voice was wrong and sounded silly and childish. The girl's complexes grew with her. Every year it seemed to her that she looked worse and worse. Thick and short fingers did not go any manicure. No clothes could not hide the imperfections of her figure, and her ears did not want to hide behind loose hair. Maria grew older and older, and while all her classmates were already dating boys, Maria continued to drown in her complexes alone. Her friends said, "Don't worry, you look good, never mind." But Maria knew perfectly well that they were lying brazenly and rudely. Her friends were lying right to her face. Why? Maybe to make fun of the ugly duckling. Maybe they really wanted the best for Maria. Or maybe they were trying to boost their self-esteem at the expense of their ugly friend. Either way, Maria didn't see any reason. Why couldn't she believe that she looked normal? Maybe not like a beauty queen, of course, but quite like an average teenage girl. Maria was getting older. Her imperfections were becoming more noticeable. She'd already graduated from high school and was studying to be a chef, but she'd never gotten a boyfriend. She resorted to the help of cosmetics, even went to style courses, but all in vain. Young men never paid any attention to her, and the girl's complexes grew bigger and bigger. Maria kept walking, choking on her tears. A date was out of the question. Makeup failed, and to go like this simply not. The girl could not afford to appear on a date like this. At least it would be unfair to the young man who asked her out. After all, in fact, he didn't ask her out at all. She came home, ignoring the neighbors that kindly asked her why she was in tears, washed her face, washed off her failed makeup, looked at herself in the mirror, all the same small eyes, all the same colorless eyebrows, making the look even more closed, all the same big nose. And those scars. Maria punched the mirror with force, nearly breaking it. Ran out of the bathroom, went into the kitchen, pressed the kettle button, pulled out a stalk of dried mint, threw it into the cup along with the tea bag. I'll never find anyone. There's a reason the makeup artist said nothing can help me anymore. I'm ugly, ugly. Her own thoughts seemed to strangle her more than any rope. The kettle boiled. She chugged the fragrant tea, picked up a fancy blue cup with a funny face on it, walked to the living room, opened her laptop. Expectedly, on the dating site, where Maria sat under the fake photos, already hung a lot of messages from a young man named David, who called the girl on a date. Maria, good afternoon, wrote a handsome man whose profile was filled with photos from fishing. We're on the same page. Can't wait to meet you, he wrote. Maria took a big sip, her eyes shielded once again from tears. She left the cup. Thick fingers tapped on the keyboard. Hi, David. Sorry, I'm swamped with work. I can't make it tonight. Sorry. She stared at her message for a couple of minutes, then abruptly pressed the button. The sender jumped up from the office chair where she always sat at her laptop. Pensively, she paced the room. I can't go out with him without preparation, she reasoned. He'd realized that all the photos in my profile weren't mine. And then what? No, I couldn't go. While Maria was thinking about the right thing to do, the speakers connected to her laptop sounded an alert. She was at the computer in a flash, staring at the new message. Too bad, a man was writing. In that case, maybe we could reschedule the date for tomorrow. Maria's small eyes grew a little bigger with surprise. She couldn't hold back a swear word. Damn. Her fingers tapped on the glowing keyboard again. No, tomorrow won't work either. I'll be working. Thoughts swirled chaotically in her head. Why? Why did I agree to a date? Since the surrendered notification sound let me know Maria had responded again. David had written well when we were able to meet. Maria waved away an incoming tear. Never, replied the girl and immediately deleted her page from the dating site. When Maria graduated from culinary school, she finally realized that it was time to take life into her own hands. At that moment, the girl decided not to pay attention to her appearance, whether there are few ugly people in this world. Maria's mother from childhood told her daughter that every pot has its own lid, meaning that even an unremarkable girl like Maria could find her true love. She realized that it was time to act and finally started actively searching for a future partner to live together. After all, she wanted to have a family and children more than anything else in the world. A series of failures awaited the girl. In most cases, those young people whom she approached in order to get acquainted with them refused the unhappy, lonely girl. Some did it gently, for example, saying that they were already busy with someone else. Some refused her in a rude way, hinting at her not the most attractive appearance. Maria did not despair. They mocked her, hardly hurting her. After all, Maria had lived her whole life with such appearance and was quite used to the fact that not all people have a sense of tact. Maria did not give up trying to get acquainted with anyone. Wandered around clubs and bars, but in most cases she failed. Nobody wanted to get acquainted with her. Nobody paid any attention to her. Time passed, and eventually such persistence paid off. Maria met him, Jacob. With Jacob, they met in a small coffee shop. The girl immediately turned her attention to an unremarkable, but very interesting young man. He was sitting in the farthest corner of the cafeteria, tucked into his laptop. He was wearing an indifferent gray hoodie. Round glasses with thick lenses were placed over his gray eyes. Next to the laptop was a large glass of coffee. Maria thought to herself, well with God, and, having inhaled, moved towards the young man. He didn't look up when Maria was next to him. She was silent for a short while, then began the conversation hello. She, embarrassed, coughed into her fist. Are you here? One young man did not respond, and she had to repeat her question. Jacob perked up, started fidgeting foolishly in one place. He noticed Maria, wiped his glasses, asked, Are you talking to me? Yes, yes. For you, Maria smiled with thin lips. Are you alone? Well, yes, he was visibly embarrassed, pulling a wide hood over his forehead. Why, wouldn't you like to meet me? Jacob seemed to be at a loss for words. What? He asked protractedly. Are you sure it's for me? Yes, to you. Maria continued to smile. Do you mind? I'll sit down. So Maria had her first young man in her life. Jacob was a little older than the girl. The young people had the impression that all their lives they had been looking for each other. They were so much alike, both unremarkable, both far from the ideal of beauty, both drowning in terrible complexes. Their relationship was developing at a frantic pace. For each of them, it was their first relationship. Jacob worked from home as a programmer. After 6 months, the young man proposed to his beloved to move in together, and now they rented an apartment together. Maria was happier than ever. At that moment, she already had a good high-paid job in a prestigious restaurant, and now she had her own man. All she lacked for complete happiness was one happy marriage and, of course, children. Maria decided to continue taking life into her own hands and proposed to the guy on her own. Jacob agreed. Of course, this is not how he saw his future bride, but still it is better than nothing. Jacob dreamed of a tall, slender girl, and a girl with thick hair and naturally lush lips. Maria, yes, Maria was by no means a model. But how long could they keep waiting for their beauty queen? Jacob agreed to this marriage and even managed to come to terms with the idea that this girl was his destiny. The partners' relationship continued to develop, and now Jacob introduced Maria to his family. Coming to the house of her future husband, Maria was stunned. His sister was just an ideal of beauty. Gorgeous, insanely beautiful, and the girl was not at all like her brother. She possessed a good figure. Her thin nose fascinated with its grace, and large gray eyes captivated beauty. Maria had always dreamed of looking the way her future husband's sister looked. After meeting the family, a strong friendship developed between Maria and Molly and her sister Jacob. Maria, what is it? Molly rounded her already large eyes. Forbid what? But who wears that nowadays? Maria was embarrassed, looking herself over from head to toe. Well, she held out this dress. What's wrong with it all? Molly was indignant. She hasn't worn one of those in about 20 years. My brother loves with his eyes. And you? Don't you look after yourself at all? Molly, I understand. Maria started to justify herself. There's just not much that fits my figure. How about this? At least it hides imperfections. And it doesn't fit you either, Molly summarized. Okay, that's not why I asked you here. That day, when Molly invited Maria to the cafe, a strange thing happened. Maria often thought about the request her friend had asked her to make. Who would have thought that her life would change so drastically because of a small thing? Anyway, I need help. Molly started the conversation. Can I count on you? Of course, Maria nodded, and his head was too big compared to his body. Why? I met a man. This man is a dream. Molly tilted her head dreamily to the side, but I don't know how to please him at all. What? Maria was genuinely surprised. You don't know how to get a man. You're a model. Oh yes, a model. But that doesn't seem to be enough. So can you help me? She reached forward and gently took Maria's hand in hers. We're friends. Oh yes, of course. What do I have to do? Great. Molly smiled victoriously. I've got an idea. You're a good cook. Yeah, maybe I'll make some interesting dish, and I'll pretend I made it. Then he'll realize I'm a good cook and marry me. What do you say? Maria frowned. Colorless eyebrows. Well, I'll help you, of course, but you don't like to cook. So what of it? Molly poked. I hate cooking, but he doesn't need to know that. But why should you if you marry him and he makes you cook? What's the point of that? Molly laughed good-naturedly. I'll deal with that on the spot. But will you help me? Maria thought for a moment. Friendship with such a beautiful and insanely beautiful girl liked her even more than the fact that she had a young man of her own. Sometimes it even seemed to her that when Molly was around, Maria herself was transformed, becoming a little more beautiful and attractive. But this, Maria felt a pang of guilt. It was a lie after all. And Maria hated lies with all her soul. But to lose a friend because of my principles, I will help, Maria replied. At that moment, she did not know that this consent would almost cost her her own life. The day of X came. Molly thought over every single detail. She rented an apartment and invited her mysterious man to dinner, which she supposedly had to cook herself, a little earlier than the appointed time Maria was to come, and all Molly's planned to realize in reality. And so when the clock showed 18 o'clock, Maria arrived at the appointed place, armed with ingredients and her handy and good utensils. Hi, Maria, smiling, walked into the apartment. It's very nice here. Would you say this is your home? Yeah, Molly replied blankly. Careful. Weighting the outline of her lips with a dark brown pencil. I'm pretending to be on the money too. You know, so he thinks I'm in his circle. I'm also a great hostess. He'll realize that I'm not just a brainless model, but also a good person, and he'll understand and marry me. There you go. Cool. Sincerely admired Maria. Well, then I'll go cook. Yeah, go. Molly never bothered to look in her friend's direction. By the way, I will cook spit cream soup. Roughly interrupted her friend by the girl. Just cook it and run quickly to Jacob. My man must not see you, do you understand? Hurry up. Our date is scheduled for 8 o'clock. Maria was embarrassed and, without saying anything in reply, disappeared through the doorway of the spacious kitchen. She quickly laid out the ingredients, took out a large frying pan, because she could only cook in her own dishes, and she set to work. Maria had always loved to cook. There was something peaceful in it, something else that made the young girl's heart beat more often, to see how close people taste what she cooked herself, with her own hands. Maria loved cooking with all her soul. She didn't notice the time she spent doing what she loved. So when Molly ran into the kitchen with frantic eyes, Maria was genuinely surprised. What's wrong? She asked. I have all the dishes almost ready. Long, irritated Molly cooked. It will take you a very long time to take everything. He's already in the driveway. Up. Maria became visibly nervous. Her hands shook with fear. What should we do? You said he mustn't see me. Should I leave? No. Molly bellowed back. What about the dish you haven't finished? She ran her thin fingers through her thick blonde hair. She thought. So you stay here, keep cooking. I'll put on some music in the living room so he won't hear that there's anyone here besides us. I'll lock you in the kitchen, in case he wants to come into the kitchen. Anyway, just sit tight and go make some food. We'll deal with it from here. Maria nodded her head, grabbing the big kernel. Okay, and if he really wants to go into the kitchen, how will you explain that it's off limits to him? I don't know, replied the girl irritably. I'll figure it out. Then the doorbell rang. I'm going. Stay quiet. And Molly, correcting her dress, went out of the kitchen, locking the room. Well, business, Maria thought to herself and continued cooking dinner for her friend. At some point, curiosity moved in, and she tiptoed closer to the door, trying to overhear the conversation. Indeed, some man. The voice was pleasant, husky. They seemed to be discussing the weather. Maria shook her head. Their conversation is none of my business. I need to finish cooking and get out of here without being seen. She thought and went back to cooking. When the first dish was done, there was a click of the door opening and a worried Molly appeared in the kitchen. "Well, are you finished?" she asked. "Almost," Maria replied. "The soup is ready and the meat is ready." Only the pie remained, but that was quickly realized. The girls talked in whispers, trying to make sure that Molly's man did not hear that she was not alone in the kitchen. "I told him I had everything ready and only needed to take everything out of the oven. I'm gonna bring out a platter, like I cooked them, you know. Come on, finish up, and I'll have to sneak you out. This is going really well so far. We can't screw it up." "Great." Maria smiled. "I'm happy for you." "Thank you." Molly took the tray and quietly left the kitchen, remembering to lock the room. Maria, having finished cooking, put the pie in the oven and tired, sat down on a chair. All that remained was to wait for the next time Molly came, explain to her that everything was ready, and quietly leave the apartment. Maria tilted her head dreamily. What an interesting life Eliska has, she thought. Time dragged on, the pie was almost ready, and it was important not to miss the moment when it was time to turn off the stove. Maria was developing. She suddenly realized that she was terribly tired. Her already heavy eyelids became even heavier, and Maria began to fall asleep. There seems to be some kind of commotion in the hallway. Are they leaving the apartment? I had no energy left to think about it. And she curled up on the kitchen table and quietly fell asleep in the oven. Who knew how this tiredness would turn out? Maria woke up to the fact that the whole kitchen was filled with black, thick, acrid smoke. Shit the oven, she thought, and rushed toward the stove to turn it off. But her legs went treacherously under, and Maria collapsed on the cold tiles. The fire had time to think. Her lungs filled with thick smoke, and she hardened hard. "Molly, Molly, fire." The girl began to shout, but it seemed to be too late. The oven had burst into flames, spreading more and more into the kitchen. Smoke filled the entire space. Maria rushed to the kitchen door on wobbly legs. It was locked. She shouted to Molly, "Open the fire." Maria shouted, gasping even harder. There was a ringing silence in the apartment. It was as if there was no one there at all. The fire flared up with renewed vigor and pulled its heated tentacles toward the unfortunate woman's face. "Open up." Gasping, she screamed. Molly and her lover had left the apartment hours ago, forgetting that Maria was locked in the kitchen. Did Molly forget about her brother's girlfriend, or did she leave her there on purpose, afraid the man would find out who cooked those wonderful meals? Who knows? In any case, such an oversight almost cost Maria her life. The girl was saved by neighbors, who in time called the fire department on the already not beautiful face of Maria. Now for the rest of her life there are horrible, horrible scars. Her body burned as her soul burned. Sometimes it seemed to her that she had died in that fire, and her present life was only a prolonged death agony. Maria had never been noted for her beauty, but these scars now she was forced to live the life of an outcast. Now those around her began to truly avoid her, and small children fearfully poked their fingers at her, calling her a monster. Maria had lost everything. Jacob had left her as soon as he saw what had become of her face. He could not accept the fact that his future wife was not only ugly, but also disfigured with horrible scars. Molly, for whom Maria had failed to escape the fire, was never found. It seemed that the young girl simply disappeared from the city, vaporized, leaving behind only pain and disappointment. Molly's family, including Jacob, were just throwing up their hands. "We don't know where she is," they said. Perhaps the girl was simply afraid of the responsibility. Maybe she was ashamed to look Maria in the eye after all that had happened. Maybe both. In the end, she managed to avoid criminal punishment. Her whereabouts are still unknown to this day. Maria was left all alone, disfigured, abandoned by everyone. Her fiancé refused her, expressing his dissatisfaction with her appearance. Poor thing, right to her face. Maria was finally disappointed not only in her external data, but also in other people. Along with that fire, she buried the idea that she could ever be truly happy. Happy in marriage, happy in a relationship. All of the crippled girl's dreams had been shattered. Maria was now 35 years old, 10 of which she had lived with the best scars all over her face and body. After her first and last fiancé left her, Maria realized that she would never find love. All her attempts to marry and have a child were left in the distant past. In the past where there were no betrayals and such annoying scars. Maria had gone head over heels into work, namely cooking. She had always loved to cook, at a time when the rest of her classmates were puzzling over where to go to school. She clearly knew her purpose. Her calling was the culinary arts. After a tough breakup and a long rehabilitation after that horrible fire, Maria took up a job. She worked in many restaurants, participated in competitions, took various courses, and her hard work paid off. Now Maria was one of the best chefs in her city, and maybe in the whole country. Every day she was offered vacancies in different restaurants, but Maria was faithful to her choice. She worked at the best location in the center of the city. Maria's job was not just a job, it was her hobby, her passion, her life's work. She would come in after work and immediately start bulleting at home. She kept a small blog on the internet, describing in articles a variety of recipes. And naturally, she blogged only in written format. Maria passed out tips to her neighbors. She often cooked for orphanages. In general, the girl's life was completely devoted to cooking. She had no time for anything else. Or maybe she just didn't want to give her time to anything else. Her life was moderately good. Maria had a very, very good salary. Her internet blog also brought in a good income. She was often invited to various programs, but Maria expectedly declined. Her appearance was the young girl's biggest pain. The scars after the fire she had suffered did not let her live peacefully. The proportional facial features were for her the anchor that did not let her float away into a happily married life. Just recently, on her 35th birthday, Maria decided to give herself a second chance. After listening to her colleagues at work, she decided to try her luck once again and started a page on a dating site. Even though her friends told her to put her photos on the site, if you don't like yourself so much, you can't sit under the guise of another person. It's not fair. Maria herself did not want to accept it. On the internet, she found pictures of some girl. She thought to herself, yes, we look alike, and put someone else's images on the net. She was immediately flooded with various dating offers. But Maria, realizing that she would disappoint her admirers, quickly rejected them. Her attention was attracted by only one person on the site, David. The girl could not pass by him. Young people communicated for hours, corresponded in the network, and it seemed that Maria managed to find someone to live together. But their meeting was not destined to happen. David often offered to go on a date, and Maria, no longer able to come up with excuses, decided to agree to the meeting. A delightful plan was brewing in her head. The girl came up with an idea to try the power of makeup on herself. She signed up at the best beauty salon, chose a makeup artist for a long time, and decided to print out a photo of the girl she pretended to be on her home printer. She came to the beauty parlor asking for help. The makeup artist scowled her eyebrows when she heard about her client's request. She perfectly understood that thanks to makeup is possible a lot, but such a completely changed the face of a person she was not able to do, and even these terrible scars. But she agreed to take the job, especially since the strange client paid double the price. And then what happened? Well, then what happened was what happened. Maria realized that no makeup will not help her radically change. No makeup will not fix the consequences of the fire. She realized and accepted it as a given. She deleted her page from the dating site and once again gave up the idea of getting to know someone. Only this time she left the idea behind for good. Summer was in full swing. Birds sang in the night. Frogs were croaking in the local park. The nights were shorter and warmer. The whole world seemed to blossom before our eyes. The restaurant where Maria worked had opened an outdoor veranda, and there were many times more customers. The freshness and radiance of summer days infected the girl herself, and she decided to bring something new into her life and started running in the mornings. The morning sun spread its translucent smoke and rays wide. The city had not had time to wake up yet, but some of the passers-by were already living their lives, walking their dogs and playing sports. Maria took a deep breath of fresh air beauty. She thought, maybe I should get a dog too. That way I'll definitely get out for my morning walks. She continued to give in to her own fantasies until she stepped out into the park and noticed how beautiful its morning view was. The local small pond was bathed in the light rays of the sun. The few passersby smiled welcomingly. Maria was immediately embarrassed and, pulling her cap lower in order to hide her own face, stood on the asphalt path with markings for running and ran to Baku. Immediately stabbed, and her heart desperately tried to jump out of her rib cage without running even 200 meters. She stopped to catch her breath. The sun was rising higher and higher. The rays were getting hotter. The black tracksuit was getting hotter and hotter. Shit, I should have read up on running technique first. She scolded herself, but then an interesting and insanely handsome family caught her eye. A tall, stately man, dressed in gray athletic pants and tight white t-shirt, was explaining something to a little boy about 12 years old. Next to them stood a girl. She looked no more than 8 years old. She was watching her father and brother with interest, but she stayed back, holding a large doll with bright red hair. Maria, forgetting about God, looked at this family with admiration. How beautiful that girl was. Blonde, long hair, big gray eyes. Maria thought for a moment that the girl reminded her of Molly, and the scars scattered all over her body ached with renewed pain. Maria, who realized that she needed to rest for a while before continuing her run, sat down on a bench and watched the happy family from afar. Happy, friendly, so beautiful. She was unable to fight her own imagination and gave into daydreaming. She imagined that this beautiful man was her husband, and this cheerful, mischievous boy and her eldest son, the beautiful girl and her daughter. And Maria herself is a beautiful, statuesque woman. The family was actively playing on the playground. And then, like Maria herself, the father of the children, stood on the jogging track and began to explain something to his children. Maria thought, if I looked better, I wouldn't have been shy, I would have approached. And really, she could use some training in running technique. But Maria was different. She preferred to remain sitting alone, just watching the happy family. I wonder what their mom looks like. What does the wife of such a fine status man look like? Maria smiled, hiding her smile behind the palm of her hand. Once more, she corrected her cap and returned to her position, intending to continue running. The days went by. Maria, to her own surprise, did not give up running. Every day the exercise became easier and easier. With each new day, she broke her own record. At work, things were going better than usual. There were more and more customers satisfied with the chef's work, and Maria's management raised her salary. She thought maybe I should open my own restaurant. Life slowly flowed thick honey. Work was boiling, and Maria herself, accustomed to the morning run, began to feel much better. One warm, velvety evening, Maria invited her only friend Kelly to a meeting. The girl worked as a pastry chef in the same restaurant as Maria herself. Kelly smiled broadly and sat down at a table in a small cafe. She was Maria's age, but looked expectedly much better. Her short, thick brown hair was cut short and styled in a lush style. Her face, studded with freckles, seemed to glow from within. The girl was wearing short white shorts. On top was an interesting beige, lightweight sweater. She sat down in her seat and began flipping through the menu. "Look at this," she said indignantly. "This is my signature dish. It's my idea, this cake. What right do they have to steal a dish from our restaurant?" Maria smiled demurely, adjusting her large sunglasses. "Oh, come on. Like you're not aware that half the city steals from our menu. Forget it. Everyone comes to our place anyway." Kelly nodded. "Yeah, it's just kind of annoying. I spent so long picking out the ingredients for my creation, and they just stole it. You know, I'm gonna order some, see how they do it." Maria couldn't hold back a smile. Kelly was not only her only friend, she was also just a good person. Maria always consulted her before making any important decision. The pastry chef had a special, bright soul. Maria was happy that after a series of failures, fate took pity on her and gave her such a beautiful and wonderful friend, Kelly. She started the conversation. and the girl responded with a gesture of her hand. She called the waiter to the table and made an order. "Look, is something wrong with you? You look worried." "I'm not." "What do you mean?" "Yeah, I don't even know where to start." Maria was embarrassed. Without saying a word to the waiter standing next to her, she poked her chubby fingers into the first salad she saw and some cocktail with a hard-to-pronounce name. After waiting for the young man to take their order and leave, she continued talking. "I've been thinking a lot lately. I want to change my life more and more often for the better, and I would like to consult with you." Yes, I'm happy to help you." Kelly seemed to blossom in front of her eyes. "I hope you want to put your picture up on that dating site. Or did you decide to meet that Dima guy? Oh my God, I'm so happy for you." Maria, laughing, raised her right hand in the air. "Hold your horses. I'll never put up pictures of myself. You know that. And David." She lowered her voice. "I don't want to talk about Dima anymore. That idea I had was really stupid. But how was I going to have a relationship with him if we started by cheating? It wasn't me in my profile. I wasn't the one he asked out. No, that's stupid. I deleted my profile. Never again." "You're wrong." Kelly interrupted her friend. "You guys were texting for a long time before he asked you out. Didn't you? He wasn't just asking for the girl in the picture. He was asking for a person." "Yeah, I lied. But that doesn't mean anything. I think you should meet him. You know, it's better to try and regret it than not try at all." No. Maria shook her head no. "I don't want to see him anymore. I'm too far gone. I don't want to talk about Dima or dating anymore. I called you to talk about something else." Kelly sighed heavily. All right, whatever you say. So what's on your mind?" "What's on your mind?" Maria has had her back lately. She adjusted her glasses again, knowing full well that she looked completely ridiculous wearing them in the evening. She adjusted a button on her black blouse and finally said, "I want to adopt a child." Kelly let out her eyes in surprise, which stretched out. She asked, "Adopt? But why adoption exactly? Don't you want your own birth child? It's not like you're infertile." "Kelly, but don't be ridiculous." At that moment, a waiter appeared at their table, holding a large tray with an order. He carefully placed the plates and glasses on the table and walked quickly to another table. Maria, after giving him a glance, lowered her voice even more. "Look at me. I'm not beautiful even without scars, but what children for me? What if it's a girl? And I don't want my child to suffer from its ugliness, just like I suffered once. No, I won't give birth on my own." "Maria, why do you feel that way about yourself? I'm sure there's a man in this world who will think you're the most beautiful in the world and will think the same of your daughter. But why would you adopt? Go back to the dating site. Put your picture up finally, find a man and start a family with him." Maria laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. "Don't talk nonsense. I'm ugly. No one will ever marry me. And those scars. No, that's not a good idea. I want to adopt a child and raise it myself. I'll pick the cutest one and then Maria." Kelly frowned his eyebrows at Maria. "But you're not married. As far as I know, single women aren't just allowed to adopt a child." So, Maria flared up. "I'll buy a marriage, but I'll enter into a sham marriage. I'll pay someone off and I'll be done. My income is good. You know that, don't you? The apartment's a big puddle. What makes you think it's a bad idea?" "I don't," quietly replied her friend. "I just think you should try to give birth yourself first." "Why did you get so excited about it? Something must have put you onto it." Maria tilted her head dreamily. "Oh yes, how well you know me. I saw a family. So wonderful, I envy them. Such happy children." "Yes. What kind of family?" Kelly asked, carefully paying for a small piece of cake. "I met them somewhere. I haven't met them. I'm shy. Remember I told you I started running in the mornings? Well, the first day I met their father and 2 beautiful kids. They were having so much fun playing, they were so happy. I realized I wanted to have kids too. I see them every morning. They run and play on the playground too. It's beautiful." "Yeah, that sounds great." Kelly wanted to smile, but suddenly she wrinkled her nose as she tasted the brownie she had ordered. "Ew. What's gross in here? Pistachios. Oh my God. That's not in my recipe. What idiots? Asked Maria, smiling. Yeah, they're full. So what's their mother like? Have you seen her? Not once, answered Maria, showing her friend her genuine surprise. Interesting, isn't it? I wonder where she is every morning. Why isn't she with them? Do you think it works? Or maybe they have a third child? Or maybe she's sick? I wonder, man, I wonder. Maybe it does work. What time do you usually see them? Around 600. Sometimes earlier. Isn't that weird? What kind of place is a mom of two working that she can't be with her family that early? No, I think it's something else. Maybe it is, but what is it? Honestly, I've been racking my brain wondering where their mom is. What makes you think they have a mom? Kelly asked me out of the blue. Maybe that man is a single father. You didn't think about that? What man? And alone? No, it can't be. Even if he's divorced, he must have a wife. He's so handsome. He, girlfriend. Kelly whistled, interrupting her. You like him? Yeah, then you should meet them. See if it works out. Things happen. Maria poked and prodded, setting down her glass of not-so-delicious drink. Don't start. Even a man like that will never pay attention to me in my life. And what would I say to them? I'd look like some kind of maniac. I've been following them for weeks. It's so weird. It's not weird, Kelly. It's worth a shot if it doesn't work out with him. Or maybe he does have a wife, something to lose, maybe a friend. Oh, come on. Maria laughed. Look, I'm not gonna finish it. This is something. Was there any more salad? Nothing. And the smoothie was basil and banana. Maybe we should go. Let's go, Kelly replied, highlighting the corners of her mouth with a napkin. Summer was coming to an end. The days were getting shorter and shorter, and the sun had stopped being so unbearable. Each morning was colder than the last, and Maria realized that she wouldn't be able to run in the mornings anytime soon. The cold wind was nasty in her ears, making them ache for days, and sullen clouds were appearing more and more often in the once perfectly blue sky. Maria went out for her morning run once again. Low, dense clouds filled the entire space. The smell of an approaching downpour lingered in the air. Maria was getting lower, but still headed towards the park. She had time to think about what would happen when the cold weather came. I won't see this wonderful family again. Oh, maybe I really should meet them. Drowning in her own thoughts, Maria didn't notice when she arrived at the playground park. It was just like each of the previous days. She noticed a familiar sight. A happy father was explaining something to a fidgety left-handed boy. The pretty girl was thoughtfully brushing the hair of her fiery red doll with her little fingers, glancing at her father from time to time. Whether the day had been special or whether something incredible and magical had happened to Maria overnight, she finally decided to approach them. She knew exactly what the family would be doing in the near future. After all, she had been following them for a long, long time. So Maria decided to wait until the father and children started running, and started the first lap. When she finished the start of her workout, the man and the children stood at their positions expectantly. Maria switched to jogging, thinking it through. Dating. And Maria began to fall into sheer panic. What am I going to tell them? How and why would I meet them? No, that's a terrible idea. I should just run past them and that's it. Even though it wasn't noticeable, the girl was terribly nervous. She still hadn't made up her mind to meet the family she was interested in. Why? She decided to just run past them. However, fate had its own plans, and the moment she ran a meter away from them, her sneaker treacherously caught on another, and Maria crashed on the wet asphalt, turning her foot. Maria seemed to freeze like the truest of beasts. She tried to get up, but her leg ached with renewed vigor. In a panic, she quickly put on her flying cap and put back on her already dirty sunglasses. They mustn't see my face. They shouldn't, panicked the girl thought. The thoughts failed to develop further because a concerned man immediately ran up to her. Girl, are you all right?" he asked. "How are you? How's your leg?" "Ah, I saw you fall. That must have hurt like hell." "Oh, no. It's fine," Maria lied back. "Don't worry, go back to the children. I can manage on my own." "No," suddenly he exclaimed. "Let me help you, your leg." "Oh, how you feel." And with these words, he approached Maria, helping her to her feet. Everything stirred inside her. This man was so close. She blushed from head to toe, mentally thanking herself that she had managed to pull her cap back on in time. Replied to, "Thank you. My leg does hurt a lot. Maybe I should walk you home. Me and the kids are done practicing. We could help you walk home. How far do you live? Show me which way." Maria seemed to be drowning in the flow of the stranger's questions. She was silent for a long time before she said anything in reply. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. But he was lying, wasn't he? They hadn't even started training yet. Who but Maria, who'd been watching them all summer, wouldn't know that? She rose to her feet, tried to pull away from the stranger, but he held her insistently by the waist. She said, "No, I don't live far away. Thank you for your help. I can take it from here." "It's not worth it." The man was surprised. "Are you sure?" He turned his head, examining his children, and asked him a question. "Children, you don't mind if I walk the girl home, do you?" The children answered no. The boy took a step forward. "Did you fall so hard? You're in a lot of pain. Let us walk you home. It's high time Daddy made friends with someone." The man looked menacingly at the boy, who immediately shut up. He continued, "Yes, we insist. Well, which way is your house?" Maria is no longer able to resist. She agreed. "All right, thank you. I live over there, behind that house." She stretched out her arm, pointing in the right direction. "What happened?" "I fell, I don't know. There didn't seem to be any piles or rocks." The man smiled broadly. "There weren't. You're just running." "Not quite right. If you'll excuse me." "What do you mean?" she asked in surprise. At that time, Maria, together with a man she didn't know, and his children were already walking in the direction of her house. Their conversation was taking shape by itself. "Well, I mean, you're putting your feet wrong. In fact, running is a complicated art of running so that you don't get tired early and your legs don't hurt. You still have to learn. No offense to me, but I've seen you in this part before. I even wanted to come up to you, but yes, my dad wanted to meet you." Suddenly, a little boy came into the conversation. He was just shy of you. Kevin, the father, shushed his son. It's not appropriate to butt into the conversation like that. The boy was embarrassed and returned to his sister, who was walking next to him, silently. Maria didn't know what to say. "You wanted to meet me?" Unable to hide her surprise, she asked. "But why?" The man was embarrassed after his son. "Oh, don't get any ideas. I didn't mean anything by it. It's just that you run in the mornings and I'm with the kids. I thought we could run together." Yeah, Maria seemed ready to pass out from shock. "But you know you really could." "Oh, there's my house." At this point, the company was already approaching the tall, 24-story, candlestick house where Maria lived. "Thank you for seeing me off." "You're welcome." The man smiled broadly, revealing white, even teeth. "By the way, my name is Thomas, and you are Maria." She lowered her eyes in embarrassment, trying to hide her face from his gaze. "Well, I'll be going. Shall I walk you to the door?" "Are you sure you can get up?" Maria was visibly nervous. In fact, she would have liked to spend as much time with such a man as possible. But suddenly she was reminded of the bright eye-burning light burning in the elevator of her house. She immediately thought of how unfavorable her scars would look in that light. She immediately imagined Thomas looking at her face in disgust, little Kevin pointing his finger fearfully at her, calling her a monster. No, she couldn't let that happen, especially since there was no sun at all outside, and the dark clouds made it feel like late evening rather than early morning. Maybe they still couldn't get a good look at her face. No, they shouldn't. "Thank you. I'll go," Maria called out to the girl by her new acquaintance. "So we could start running together. What do you say? How about next week, when your leg feels better?" "Of course," she replied cheerfully. "Of course, I'd be glad." "See you then." Maria said her name again, Thomas. "Maria, forgive me for being so impertinent, but I never saw your face. To tell you the truth, before, when I saw you running past, I wondered what you looked like. You're always wearing a cap and glasses. May I ask you to take them off? Pardon my impertinence?" No, Maria replied sharply. "Aya, I can't. That's all. Thomas's eyebrows rose in surprise. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just that I wouldn't even recognize you if I saw you in a store, for example. We're practically neighbors. I'd like to know you by sight. No, replied the girl and turned around through the wild, all-consuming pain in her leg. She proved to the driveway and fled fluently through its doors, showing her face to this handsome man. No way in the world, thought the girl. It seemed to her that, seeing her scars, her facial features, he could be disappointed in her in an instant. Maria went up to her apartment, took off her annoying cap, threw her giant glasses on the coffee table. She had mixed feelings. On the one hand, she was glad to have met this family, but on the other hand, was he following her as much as she was? But why? Maria couldn't find any answers to her questions. The whole situation seemed strange, stupid. Why did he want to meet me? She thought. Of course, because he didn't see my face, he didn't see my scarred body. To see the real me. Not hiding behind glasses, a cap and a bunch of clothes would never look at me. The girl walked into the bathroom and, only now realized how much her leg hurt. She tried taking the shower. It didn't work. It seemed she had earned a real fracture. Unable to hold on any longer, she called work to tell them she couldn't make it and called an ambulance. A couple of hours later, Maria was sitting in the hospital waiting room with a cast on her ankle. Maria went home with a displaced fracture of the leg. She could hardly move. Why even her favorite job had to take a sudden sick leave? And running was out of the question. The girl's entire foot and ankles were in a cast. Even to the toilet, the kitchen, or the bathroom she reached with great difficulty. One of those unfortunate and immobilized them days. The cook's doorbell rang unexpectedly. Hello. Kelly appeared on the doorstep. In her hand, she could see a valise filled with oranges and a large box of medicine. How are you? Asked the girl. How's your leg? Oh, Kelly, thank you for coming. A sincere, happy smile shone on Maria's face. After the death of her parents, Kelly was the only person in the whole world that Maria could not be shy. In front of her friend, she could be sincere. She could be real, and she could be herself, if at the sight of everyone else Maria, embarrassed, pulling down her cap or a wide-brimmed hat, hid her smile behind the palm of her hand and tried not to show her emotions. Then with Kelly, it was completely different. With Kelly, Maria could laugh at the top of her voice. She could smile at the top of her mouth without hiding her face. With Kelly, the girl was a little happier than usual. In front of her, there was no need to hide. She opened the door wide. Come on in. Come on in. Are you taking the day off today? You should have gotten some sleep, not come to my place. You're giving me a hard time. It wasn't supposed to be. But I took it to visit you, so don't wake me up. So tell me how you're doing. How did you manage to fall so hard you broke your leg? Maria smiled entreatingly at there was such a thing. She, taking in her hands the wand, which she had recently ordered on the web, slowly, trying not to cloud, scratching at her sore leg, walked towards the kitchen. Let's go sit down, I'll tell you everything. The spacious kitchen of the man working as a chef was made in light beige colors. High ceilings, smooth, perfectly clean kitchen counters, marble tiles on the floor, hanging plants in pots, catchapots, and a lone morning ray, now residing through the white translucent curtains. All of this was inspiring, setting the right mood. In this kitchen, Maria really created. In this kitchen, she made the best culinary masterpieces. Although now she was, you could say, disarmed. The kitchen was still her favorite place in the apartment. In the mornings, she liked to drink fresh over brewed coffee, looking out the wide window and nearby park. In the evenings, she liked to pull up a white dry wine, sitting at his laptop. This kitchen was a place of strength and a place where all grudges were forgotten, and one could truly enjoy a life that often wasn't so great. Kelly walked into the spacious kitchen, followed by her friend, and sat down at the bar. At the same time, Maria tried to do the housework, but her friend stopped her with a single glance. So sit down, I'll make us coffee. She walked along the long kitchen tops. So where is it? Yeah, I see it. But tell me what happened. Maria bowed her head dreamily. Oh, Kelly, I met them. Kelly raised her eyebrows in surprise. Who did she meet? Bora gave her friend a long look as her eyes widened, and she almost jumped on the spot. And with them, this family of athletes. Yeah, Maria replied cheerfully. Really, as you can see, it cost me a lot. She looked down at her leg. But now we will run together. Really, it's great. Frost. Oh yes, that's great, Kelly replied. So you two met. How? Did you finally decide to approach them? Well, almost. And Maria told her friend about her unusual acquaintance with that mysterious family. Told her how she had planned to meet them and how she had asked them out of the blue. But the acquaintance was still destined to take place. Wow, Kelly commented on the story. From the bread from a small coffee cup. You know, that's real destiny. Oh, come on, Maria replied with embarrassment. Would you say that too? Well, where is his wife? The wife of this Thomas. Did you ask about her? I wondered, didn't I? No. How come? Kelly lamented. But how could you forget about something like that? Maybe she really is working. Maybe she's sick. Maybe she's not. Maybe. Maybe she's interested in coming forward. Maybe she's not even here. Why, maybe he's a single dad. What makes you so sure he's married? Oh, well, how could he not be? Such a tall, handsome man. Such beautiful children. If he's really divorced, there's no way I'll believe he hasn't remarried. And I didn't forget to ask about his wife. It was just kind of awkward or something. Oh, come on. What's awkward about it? It's no big deal. Besides, it's an important factor. What if his jealous wife finds out his husband's running around in the morning with someone else? And how do you make a scene? Do you need it? Maria laughed heartily. Don't be ridiculous. Who in his right mind would be jealous of his man to me? It's a joke, by God. You shouldn't think so, my dear. Besides, he said he's been wanting to meet you for a long time. It doesn't matter if he's married or not. He obviously likes you. Kelly, don't be ridiculous. How could anyone like me? He didn't even see me. He didn't even see my face, my scars. Are you talking nonsense right now? Well, maybe he didn't see you, but he could see your figure. Kelly laughed lightly with her head tilted to the side. So he wanted to meet you. Oh, I hope he's not married. He might be a walker. We don't want that kind of guy. Oh, Kelly, don't even start. Maria looked down in embarrassment. We just said we'd run together. That's all. How are you gonna run, sweetheart? With your leg, you won't be able to get out on the track for a long time. Did you at least call him? Warned him you're not able to exercise yet? Did you? She was genuinely surprised. Where would I call him? The rail. Where would I get his phone number? Didn't you two exchange contacts? Well, Maria, how come? No, why? We're not friends, just acquaintances. Of course, you just met him. But you had to keep in touch. He was right to ask you to take your hat off. He wouldn't recognize you if he did. How would you communicate? Maria smiled enigmatically. I'm sure I'd recognize them. What's the point? I mean, you'd be too tired to go first. Oh yeah. Time passed and Maria's legs still didn't want to get better. The cast was already removed, but the injury reminded of itself every time the girl walked faster than usual or stood in one place for a long time. Late fall was already falling on the streets of the city. Running was out of the question. Not only because of Maria's injury, but also because of the weather conditions. Life went on as usual. Maria went to work, continued to text blog. One cold fall evening, she even started thinking about starting her own cooking classes. It was getting colder and colder outside, and Maria didn't know where else to spend her free time. Thomas did not get out of her head. Who is he? What does he do? What are his hobbies? What he lives after all? Is he married, and if so, to whom? The girl was just painted with curiosity. On one of her free weekends, she decided to dress warmer to go out for a jog in the early morning. The weather forecasters promised the last, relatively warm fall week. Who knows, maybe Maria would be lucky again. Maria put on a warm, dark brown colored tracksuit and a black sports vest. She was wearing, as always, large sunglasses that took up half her face. Her sparse blonde hair was loose. On her head was a cap with a wide brim. Maria stepped out into the park, looking around. Compared to a summer day, the view of the park looked more like an apocalypse. Despite the good summer weather, the park was empty and almost uninhabited. The bright sunlight lazily spread across the red-orange caps of the trees. The surface of the local pond was calm and more like a mirror. There was no sign of the park's lively network of singing birds or people walking their docile or not so docile dogs. The park was empty, as if Maria was the last human being alive on this planet. She stared, breathed in the already cold, refreshing air, looked around again at no one. It was as if the world had paused. As if all the people knew something that Maria did not know, why they hid in their houses. Maria walked uncertainly along the pond, scrutinized all the benches, walked to the playground. No children or their parents. It seemed that indeed Maria was all alone. However, the feeling of loneliness was already very familiar to her. Looking around the park once more and finally convinced that she would not be able to meet Thomas and his children again, Maria got into position and ran. The wind set in her ears. The once sore leg ached with renewed vigor. Not even a kilometer into the run, Maria stood in place, leaning her palms on her knees. Probably shouldn't have gone back to jogging so soon. When Maria looked up after catching her breath, she was surprised to find herself being followed closely. "Hello." Hesitantly, the girl said hello to her watcher. It was an elderly woman. She looked to be at least 80 years old. The old woman was sitting on a bench nearby. Her whole appearance expressed obvious displeasure. "Did you want to ask me something?" The old woman got up from the bench and slowly approached her. Maria was still looking at no one. Some feeling of uneasiness settled in her soul, and the girl unknowingly paid. "Can I help you in any way?" she asked again. "What are you doing here?" The old woman asked, sticking her wand forward, using the object as if it were a pointer. "You? What are you doing here?" "I went out for a run." "Why?" "Nothing. Nothing. You don't know what's coming." An old woman smoked mysteriously. "You better go home before it's too late. Can't you see anyone but you?" "Not here?" "Ah, well, yes," answered the girl uncertainly. The sight and tone of that old woman sent a chill down her spine. She frightened the girl for some reason. There was something strange about her, not of this world. "So go away," shouted the old woman. "Soon you will all be infected. Maria is twisted with fear." "Woman, what are you talking about?" Quietly, she asked. "You'll see the girl." All in good time. The old woman's face instantly changed. "You've already survived the fire. Try to survive this disaster." Maria is stunned. "How do you know?" she asked quietly. His hand instantly reached for his cap and glasses. Could this woman really see her scars? The girl's face became new. It didn't matter. The old woman was back to her angry, terrifying self. "Leaving here? What are you talking about? What's going on? Where are the people? Something terrible is about to happen. It will happen all over the world. People can already feel it coming. Don't come here again. You won't find what you're looking for here. I know what I'm talking about." Maria didn't know what to think. She examined the old woman more closely. Tiny from the mountains, a long grandmother. Her gray hair was tangled in one big witchy mess. Instead of clothes, there were some kind of socks. The old woman looked mad. She was already thinking of turning around and walking away, seeing no point in socializing with the mind-deprived. But something caught her eye. The old woman's eyes were demon eyes, half transparent. It seemed she was blind. Maria was completely confused. "Are you blind?" "My eyes don't help me anymore. It's true. I can't see anything that's going on around me. But I feel I'm not blind at all. What would you think?" The old woman answered enigmatically. How did you realize I survived the fire? Did you feel it? And now you said I wouldn't find what I was looking for here. What did you mean by that?" "I see what I mean," the old woman replied in a calm tone. She suddenly smiled broadly, revealing rotten teeth, and stepped forward. "Your fate will be as blind as I am. Farewell." And with those words, she abruptly turned around and headed towards the exit of the park. Mad woman, Maria thought to herself, trying to calm the frantically beating heart. But what was she talking about? She wondered. The empty streets began to press on the girl. The deserted expanses suddenly began to frighten Maria. Waiting for the old woman to disappear behind the wide gates of the park, she followed the same direction to the exit. Some feeling of anxiety and approaching trouble settled in her soul. What was she talking about? What infected were they talking about? She had no answers to these questions. Maria left the park with a quick step, no longer able to stay in that place for a second. Maybe the old woman knew something. Time flew by at breakneck speed. Maria was drowning in her work, not paying attention to the rest of her life. The blog was gaining more and more subscribers. Work was a real drag. The colder it was outside, the more people wanted to sit in some cozy place, trying new and interesting dishes. Maria's culinary skills were in high demand. The cold, snowy winter came, followed by the equally cold, but already more friendly spring. The girl did not pay any attention to the change of year. All her thoughts were immersed in work. Well, almost all of them. Still, sometimes, literally a couple times a month, Maria decided to get out to the park. She realized that such weather was not suitable for jogging. Especially in their city, they didn't keep the roads clear of snow. But something was pulling her to this place. She still hoped that she would meet Thomas and his beautiful, beautiful children there. Maybe they had moved away. The girl thought wistfully. Maybe Thomas had gotten sick. She could not find a suitable answer. Why didn't the family come to the park anymore? After all, they used to spend every summer morning there. What had happened to make them stop going out? Especially since Thomas said they were neighbors, which meant he lived nearby. Where else would he go with his kids but in this park? Their sudden disappearance was more than strange. Maria Kelly's friend joked probably his wife found out about your acquaintance from jealous, forbade him to go to that park. But Maria just waved him off. How can you be jealous of me? The girl wondered. No, there was definitely something wrong. Since that strange, frightening day, it's been months now. But the words of that old woman did not get out of Maria's head. How did she realize that the girl had been in the fire? If she was blind, what expressions was she talking about? At first, Maria didn't want to share the incident with anyone. But then she still decided to tell about such a strangeness to her friend. Kelly told Dawn so. Kelly shook her head incredulously. The girls met in a small, cozy bar after a hard day's work. Both of them ordered a glass of pink wine. This is crazy. You're probably being played, aren't you? Who cares? Maria lamented. What's the point of a prank? I don't know. Kelly thought, tilting her head to the side. Maybe it's some kind of social experiment? No, the girl continued. She really was blind. I saw for myself how she would have realized I'd survived the fire. There's just no such thing. Then there's those predictions of hers. Maybe she was wearing contacts and pretending to be blind. She saw your scars, so she decided to make it creepy. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. That's what I'm saying. Weird. Maria reached for her glass. Even if she was wearing contacts, she wouldn't have been able to see my scars behind my cap and glasses. Oh, and the park was so creepy that day. There was no one there at all. How often does that happen? Oh, sweet Kelly, she shook her head condescendingly. Well, what's your theory? You think that old lady's a witch or something. Well, maybe not a witch, I don't know. A fortune teller. It was really weird. She also said my fate would be blind. You know, I never really thought about it. Maybe I really should meet a blind man. Then he'd never see my face and he could love me. Sweet Kelly reached out and put her hand on her friend's arm and covered her palm with her own. You can be loved anyway, and it doesn't have to be a blind man. It can be any man, blind or sighted, poor or rich. How many times have I told you not to be so hard on yourself? Oh, I don't know. She also said I wouldn't find what I was looking for in that park. Do you think she's talking about that family? You don't really see them anymore. Maria. Kelly jerked her hand to the side. Of course you don't. It's winter. But who wants to take a long walk in this weather? And that empty park was only because of the bad weather. So there was no one there. No, Maria objected. I used to walk there a lot. There was only one day like that. Other days, weekends and weekdays. Anybody? Yes, there are dog walkers. Families with kids in the park. All except Thomas. Do you think I'll ever see them again? You will. Kelly's got a big smile. By the way, have you decided something? What do you mean? Maria asked, surprised. Well, you know how you said you wanted to adopt a baby? Have you thought of something? That Maria changed her face in a flash. No, I can't decide yet. It's such a big step, especially with that old woman. Oh, there you go again. What about that old woman? She said my fate was blind. Maybe I should really look at blind men and see what happens. Then we could adopt a baby together. Maria, you could. You could have one of your own. And it doesn't have to be with a blind man. You could do it with any man. Why did you get over that old lady? What was that about some mysterious contagion? How do you explain that nonsense? Maria the conspirator lowered her voice. Didn't you hear about that thing in China? There's some kind of virus going around. Everyone's getting sick, infected. The old woman said the whole world would be infected. Kelly laughed out loud. Oh, you'll say that your virus will never reach us. The month of March came. The ice blocks and mountains of snow didn't seem to be melting. The cold wind was chilling to the bone. After New Year's Eve, Maria never left the feeling of approaching misfortune, and even the words to that old woman. After consulting with Kelly, the girl thought that maybe she really gave too much importance to the words of that town madwoman and almost forgot to think about those frightening prophecies until the quarantine was declared in their town. The whole world was sick with a terrible new disease. People were dying from it in every corner of the globe. As soon as Maria heard about the coronavirus pandemic, she thought the whole world had gone from under her feet. The old woman definitely knew. She really felt it. Maybe the old woman wasn't an old woman at all, but something more. Maybe she was Maria's guardian angel. Maybe she was some ancient keeper of secrets. Maybe that old woman was a ghost of the future. Maybe she was a seer. Maria was lost in speculation as she carefully processed all of her clothes upon arriving home. Maria's critical side was in turmoil. The skeptic inside was saying that all this guessing was complete nonsense. Maybe she was a fortune teller, maybe a witch, or maybe just a regular crazy grandmother out of her mind. A town madwoman who just got lucky enough to say her bullshit at the right time to the right person. There's no shortage of fortune tellers. Conspiracy buffs are always predicting various events. Most likely, that grandmother was just a lucky guesser. This is nothing more than an old woman's luck and a terrible event for all mankind. Maria could not understand in any way what part of her personality outweighs the scales, skeptic or conspiracy theorists. In any case, there was more than enough time to think about such things. The restaurant where Maria worked was closed for quarantine. The best. The town's chef was out of a job. Maria did not know where to spend all her free time and, most importantly, where to get money from. The girl, being the workaholic, went crazy with boredom, being in the apartment 24/7. This quarantine simply drove her crazy. She was literally climbing the walls. And then there were the time restrictions. She was forbidden to leave the house. Maria didn't know what to do with her life. What if she got infected too? No, it didn't matter whether her grandmother was right or wrong, but she had to take care of her health anyway. Maria obeyed all the government's orders. She left the house only when allowed and for that time, and only for a good reason with the lack of wages, and accordingly, money, she also sorted out quite quickly. Her cooking block was already generating some income, and Maria also started cooking to order. Many people in her town were happy to learn that the chef of her favorite restaurant continues to work. Maria enlisted the help of her husband, Kelly. He worked as a programmer. Thanks to his help, Maria created her own website and fulfilled small culinary orders, baked cakes, grilled delicious steaks. One cold spring evening, Maria received another order for a cake for a child's birthday. She was horrified to discover that culinary products must be ready by the next morning. And the only ingredients she had were eggs, and they weren't fresh. Maria rushed to the specialty store. "I hate traffic jams," she complained aloud. She drummed her fingers on the steering wheel of the car. She managed to buy everything she needed before closing time. But here on the way home, the girl met a terrible traffic jam from a quietly working radio. Some light pop song was playing. From behind the tightly closed windows every now and then came someone's screams and the annoying hum of cars. Life in the city was boiling. It would seem that everyone should have stayed at home. But judging by the streets of the city, most people ignored the rules. Maybe they're all traveling on some important business. Maybe they were, but Maria couldn't hold back her inner judgmental voice. Where are you all going? And she wondered, can't you wait until morning? I have really important things to do, and you? All these questions Maria asked inside herself, as if to the sky. It seemed so time ran a little faster. Finally, the cars started. Maria glowed with joy. With great pleasure, she pressed the gas pedal. Thank God, she continued to rejoice until she discovered the cause of such a long traffic jam. Somewhere up ahead, there was an accident in sight. A small dark gray passenger car had hit a bus. The bus stop that stood nearby was literally bursting with poor people. Maria thought to herself until something caught her eye. It was a flash, a mirage, something that would be difficult to explain in simple words. But the girl was clearly convinced that it was a true sign of fate. For a second, she thought she was the same crazy old woman from the park, as if in the movie, as if someone was lighting her up. Maria could clearly see the old woman standing in the middle of the excited people at the bus stop. Her white eyes seemed to burn with a bright light. Her thin wrinkles and lips broke out in a strange smile and whispered help. Of course, even if she had wanted to, Maria would never have been able to read this or that word from her lips, especially since it was a very decent distance to the bus stop. The girl, having managed to clamp the brake pedal, stopped abruptly on the spot. The traffic of cars was very weak, and no one was hurt by such an abrupt stop. She stopped, smoked her eyes hard, then abruptly opened, no one in the place where she thought this strange old woman. She was already gone. Truth be told, something still made her pull out of traffic and park not far from this very bus stop. Maria quickly got out of the car and quickly approached the little bus passenger. "Hi, are you all right?" gently asked Maria. "No," answered the girl quietly. She immediately lowered her gaze with tiny hands of force, clutched a doll with fiery red hair. After Maria realized that no old woman was or could be at the stop, she immediately noticed the little girl holding her familiar doll in her hands. At first glance, there was nothing strange about it. There were a bunch of people at the bus stop as it was. Most likely one of her parents was standing somewhere nearby. But some premonition made Maria stop and approach the child. What if she was lost? Maria decided to ask Honey, "Do you remember me? I met you in the park once. Your daddy's name is Thomas, right? And your brother's Kevin?" The girl looked at the stranger carefully at first, but then her gaze cleared and she nodded vigorously. "I remember. Are you the aunt who fell and hurt her leg?" "Yes, pleased," Maria replied. "That's me. Tell me you're here alone. Where are your father and brother?" The little girl's gaze faded in an instant. "Grandma's head is at Grandma's, and Daddy's not well." "How's what?" The girl asked fearfully. "Where is he?" "He fell. He's not far from here, is he?" "No," answered the girl sharply. "He's at home, Daddy's sick. And for the last couple days he's even stopped getting up. He doesn't talk back. When I talk to him, he doesn't even make sure I brush my teeth. I'm scared, Maria." The kid's eyes have faded even more. "What? How come? Why isn't your brother with you? Did you leave the house all alone?" The girl only nodded her head in response, clutching the doll tighter and tighter. "After Dad got sick, it was hard for him to be with the two of us. Then Grandma took Kevin to live with her for a while, and I stayed with Daddy." "I don't like to stay with Grandma. I only want to be with Daddy." Maria couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Honey, where does your mom live?" The girl looked at Maria with her big gray eyes for a long time, then turned around and ran away. "Stop!" The girl shouted and ran after the child. "Stop! Where are you going?" "I want to help." Maria managed to catch the fugitive only after some time. The girl looped and dashed off into the yards. Maria caught up with her, gently took her hand. "I want to help. What's wrong? Don't you want to?" The girl went into a screaming fit. "You were talking about Mom. I'm not talking about her ever again." Okay. Trying to calm the child, the girl spoke. "You didn't say your name." "When I met you." "What's your name?" The girl looked at Maria incredulously. "Can you be trusted? I can't see you." She stretched a small hand forward, pointing to Maria's big hat, and still the same sunglasses. There's no sun right now. Oh well, Maria looked embarrassed. I look really bad. You shouldn't have to see my face. No, replied the girl sharply, and in one leap she was next to Maria. She stood on her tiptoes and pulled off Maria's glasses. The accessory fell to the floor, and a sudden gust of wind dragged away the thing without which Maria did not remember herself. Terror gripped her. Poor girl, she thought. She shouldn't see this, shouldn't be so frightened. Maria didn't know what this child's next move would be. She would probably run away. But contrary to expectations, the girl said, "My name is Adriana. Will you help me?" Maria, why wasn't the girl scared? Mutilated in the face. Why didn't she run away? She could only squeeze out one word. Of course, thank you, Adriana replied. Daddy's not feeling well at all. I wanted to call my grandmother, but I couldn't open his phone. So I decided to go to her myself, to call for help. I got on the buses, the bus hit. They made me get off here, and I don't know this place. I'm lost. Maria, can you help Daddy? Oh my God, of course. Say, do you remember your address? Luckily, little Adriana remembered the street name, the house number and the floor, and even the apartment number by heart. 20 minutes later, Maria parked in the yard of the right house, and taking the girl by the hand, went up to the right floor. When they entered the apartment, Maria was stunned. In the spacious bedroom lay him Thomas. The man was unconscious. His mouth was open and his eyes were closed. The girl in one step was beside him. Thomas, Thomas, wake up, shouted she, begging the unfortunate man by the breast. But there was no answer. At that moment, a small hand patted Maria on the shoulder. Here, take this, said Adriana. Maria, in her hands a smartphone. This is Daddy's phone, unlocks it, because I cannot do it. And call your grandmother. Maria hesitantly picked up the gadget. Tried to unlock it, it didn't work. The phone was expectedly behind the password. The girl glanced at the owner of the device. Thomas was still lying unconscious. She said quietly, "Girls, I'm going to call an ambulance now. Daddy will be taken to the hospital. And you?" Adriana interrupted her companion. "Can I stay with you?" Thomas was taken away by ambulance. When asked about the terrible disease that had befallen the man, the paramedics, shrugging their shoulders, replied, "We'll figure it out at the hospital," as Maria did not have any contact or address of the grandmother. And when asked about her mother, Adriana immediately fell silent. There was nothing left to do but to take the girl to her place. Maria and Adriana had to wait for a call from the hospital where Thomas had been taken. That same night, Maria brought Adriana to her home and prepared a guest bedroom for her. "What are you doing?" Adriana asked with interest as she walked into the kitchen. "I am working," answered Maria. "I am a cook and I have to bake a cake for tomorrow." The girl suddenly smiled broadly. "It's for your birthday, isn't it?" "Well, yes. You can't leave the birthday boy without a cake, can you? So I'll have to cook all night. You go to bed, get some rest. You've had a hard day today." "I don't want to," Adriana replied sharply. "I can't sleep while Papa." Tears shone in your eyes. "Papa, how is he?" Maria stopped, took off her pastry gloves, came closer to the girl. "Everything's going to be all right. Everybody gets sick sometimes. It's okay. The doctors will help your daddy, and you'll come home. I promise." Adriana nodded, wiping away her tears with her sleeve. "Maria," she asked gently, "are you even at home wearing glasses?" "Oh, I do," she half whispered. Of course, Maria did not wear glasses or a cap or anything else at home that could hide the scars she hated so much. It was just that she had an innocent little guest in her house today. She didn't want to scare her with her face at all, so she made the decision to hide further. "Well, I can see better this way. I don't have good eyesight." The girl hummed incredulously. "I know what vision glasses look like. These aren't them. They're from the sun. You were wearing them, and you lost those glasses on the street too. These are different ones. What do you need them for?" "Maria," Adriana sighed heavily. "You see, my face is very ugly and ugly. You are still very young. You shouldn't look at it. It's a normal face." The girl interrupted her. "I've seen it before, and it didn't scare me at all." "You mean the scars?" "Yeah, Kevin has one on his knee, and Daddy has one on his back. What's the big deal? Well, honey, they're a little different. No, they're not. And with those words, the girl pulled Maria by the arm, forcing her to squat down in front of her face. She then pulled her little hands up to Maria's glasses and slowly removed them. Now there you are, beautiful. Why do you hide like a mouse? Maria didn't know what to say. I am beautiful. In a trembling voice, she asked, Don't be silly. She reached back for her glasses, but the girl sharply removed the hands in which she held them. But please don't put them on. When you're wearing glasses, am I afraid of you without glasses? Maria asked quietly. Without them, you are not afraid of me in the slightest? Adriana smiled. I like your scars as a pattern. Tears came to Maria's eyes. Thank you, Adriana. You're a very pretty girl, too, she laughed. I didn't fall asleep anyway. Can I help you make the cake? But of course you can. Maria answered and began to explain to the child what she was doing and why. Adriana was the second person Maria had been able to trust with her scars. She was the first person who sincerely told Maria that she looked good. Unhappy, abandoned by her fiancé and surviving a fire, the girl couldn't believe her happiness. It seemed so simple. Not the scars, the patterns. And the world once again played with new colors. While Maria and Adriana waited to be called from the hospital, they spent time surprisingly well in the current situation, laughing, smiling, cooking together, and walking in the park. Of course, sometimes Adriana was sad sometimes, thinking about Daddy. But Maria already knew the approach to this beautiful, bright girl. Together with Adriana, she was as good as she was, except for Kelly. Just a day later, Maria realized that she was ripe to take a child from the orphanage. She didn't need a husband at all. 3 days later, they got a call from the hospital where Thomas was hospitalized. Daddy, Daddy, shouted little Adriana, carrying him down the long hospital corridor. Where is my daddy? How is he? She asked the doctors passing by. Coming through? A large man said in a dry voice. He had small square glasses on the tip of his nose and a large bald spot on his head. So, daughter, and with whom do you come to the sick acquaintance? Maria answered uncertainly. I am a friend of the family. Well, okay. The doctor, having examined the girl, with an incredulous look stretched his hand forward and gestured to invite the visitors to enter the nearest room. Come in, Papa. Adriana whirled into the room. Maria said hesitantly, adjusting her glasses. She followed the girl and saw the following picture. Thomas was lying almost motionless, but it was clear from his wide smile that he was conscious, with a wide bandage over his eyes. Next to him sat little Kevin, who was enthusiastically telling his father something. On the other side sat an elderly woman, probably the children's grandmother. Hello. An elderly woman greeted Maria cheerfully. Oh, thank you so much. If it weren't for you. Her voice broke, her gaze lowered. If it hadn't been for you, could this have happened? My Thomas, he's Maria, came the voice of a man lying in a hospital bed. Maria, is that you? I thought I recognized your voice. I answered the girl quietly. She couldn't take her eyes off the bandage that was over his eyes. On the one hand, she was glad that he would never see her face in the good light. On the other hand, however, she condemned herself for these thoughts. How could one rejoice in another's grief? Scolding herself, she said, What has this blindfold done to you? What was it for? Oh, well, the broad smile vanished from his face. He released Adriana, whom he had hitherto clutched to his chest, from the tight embrace and cleared his throat. The disease had given a complication, and here are the children. Why don't you come down to the cafeteria? Aha, Kevin replied cheerfully. He grabbed his little sister under his arm and stormed out of the room. The door collapsed and Thomas, making sure the kids were definitely out, started talking. I'm sorry, I just don't want to scare them too much. Anyway, the disease has taken its toll, and I think I'm blind. Permanently. Blind, that's what Maria said. The old woman, who had been sitting silently next to her son all this time, sobbed quietly. Maria, on the other hand, didn't know what to say. I'm so sorry to hear that. How could it be? It's terrible, but at least I'm alive. That can't be good. And your eyesight? The doctors say it can come back, but it's a long shot. If I can see again, it'll be a miracle. But I'm happy with what I've got. My kids are fine, and I'm alive. The rest doesn't matter so much. Yes, of course, you're right. She answered quietly. How did you get so sick? You've been unconscious for days. I don't know how it happened. Poor Adriana. She must have been so frightened. She's fine, Maria reassured the man. We even had a good time. Sorry, I completely forgot to say thank you. Thank you for taking care of my daughter. Thank you for calling an ambulance and for the truth in times of need. If it wasn't for you, it wouldn't have been. You don't have to look embarrassed. Well, if you're all right now, I guess I'll be going. Maria, wait. The children's grandmother raised her voice. I too want to say thank you for helping my son and grandchildren. But can't you just leave like that? Adriana, she seems to like you. Can't she at least say goodbye to the kids? Oh, well, of course, I'm happy to stay. Maria looked around and sat down gently on the couch next to me. There was an awkward silence in the room. The first to break the silence was Thomas. You know about the eyesight. He began, it's not that important to me in general. I've seen a lot of things, seen almost everything. But there is one thing I do regret. What's that? Maria asked with interest. I regret that I never got to see your face. The girl's heart skipped a couple of beats, her hands came, and a blush appeared on her cheeks. She fixed her glasses, pulled her cap lower. Come on, there's nothing to see there. Maria, by the way, the grandmother's whole body turned in her direction long beads and made a funny sound. The smell of her dusty, sweet perfume reached Maria. Maria, why are you wearing glasses and a hat? It's better to wear a hat now. It's so cold outside. Fish, Mama interrupted his mother. A man wears what he wants. Don't molest a man. At that second, the door to the ward swung open. Maria had time to exhale, thank God, did not have to make excuses, and the whole room was filled with happy baby, chirping. Daddy, look what we bought, shouted Kevin, but immediately became embarrassed. And his ears turned crimson. Dad, I'll tell you some other time, the doctor said in a gruff voice. Until then, standing in the doorway. Visiting hours are over. The patient is still too weak. And when are you? Are you writing him up? The old woman asked. The children miss him. When will he feel better? Still dryly replied the doctor. Visitors out. Children, socialize with your father. Maria, deciding that she had no right to observe personal family scenes, quickly left the room. When she was already near the registrar, she was called by a familiar elderly voice. Maria, wait. Called the woman actively Kelly her hand. Stop, wait, she shouted, but she was moving too slowly. At the same time, Adriana was already running towards the girl. Kevin was there a couple seconds later. Kelly, it's you. Where are you going now? The little girl asked. Daddy hasn't been discharged yet, but I have. She looked around, lowered her voice. And I don't want to live with Grandma and Kevin. I either want to be with Daddy or with you. Maria raised her eyebrows in surprise. Oh, but I don't know. If it's okay with your dad and your grandmother. Maria, is it okay with you? Asked the woman who had already gotten closer. Did she like you so much? She doesn't like coming to my place. She says it's too dark. But children, what can you do with them? Yes? Oh well, I don't mind Adriana staying with me. We get on well together. And if it's okay with you and your son, fine. The woman threw up her hands. I know you can't do that. We don't know each other very well. But you're talking to a very nice man. And Adriana is crazy about you. Yeah, and Thomas told me about you once. I think you met in the park. My name is Daria, by the way. Nice to meet you. Maria answered quietly. Thomas has talked about me, but we've only met once. I wouldn't think he'd remember me at all. You shouldn't think so, the woman replied. Oh, why are we standing here? We're bothering other people. I can take you to lunch. Maria went with Daria and the children to a cafe near the hospital. There, when the children had finished their lunch and had gone to play in the children's room, she decided to ask Thomas's mother something that had been on her mind for the past few months. Daria, she began carefully. May I ask you a question? Of course, the older woman smiled broadly. You know, I think I know what you want to ask. Pardon my curiosity, But where is the children's mother? The day I met Adriana at the bus stop, I asked her about her mom. The girl ran away from me and then said she didn't want to talk about her. You know, back that day in the park when we met, I thought, why doesn't the mother walk with her children? What a beautiful family. How could anyone not want to spend time with them? Anyway, I'm confused. Oh, Mom, Grandma exhaled sadly. She's gone. What do you mean, gone? Oh my God. I'm sorry, Maria's heart began to race again. How could she ask such an inappropriate question? Poor babies. What did she die of? Died? And then there's the grief-stricken mother who ran away. And she abandoned her children. Maria got even more embarrassed. But how could she do that? How can you abandon your own children? Oh, if I'd known. I told Thomas right away that this girl was no match for him. And when he introduced me to her, I knew she wasn't the girl to start a family with. It's still so awful. Poor kids. How did you figure it out? How? Her looks, her demeanor, her manners, her appearance. Maria, I can tell you're a good, kind girl. A girl like you should start a family. And that, oh well, he shouldn't have had anything to do with her at all. What was wrong with her? If Thomas loved her, she must have been pretty good. Well, she was. Pretending, the woman replied, shaking her head reproachfully. The girl was that girl. She's awfully handsome. Hair to the waist, big eyes, but the soul was shallow, dirty. My Thomas would never pay attention to just a pretty girl. He always wanted a girl who was good, kind, wise. She deceived him. At first, when they first met, she was all about pretending she loved cooking the kids. Thomas believed the circus, got married. And then what happened? Ran away when Adriana was 3 months old. Ran away. But to where? How do you run away from a baby that you have to breastfeed? That's how Thomas came home from daycare then, picked up Kevin, came home and froze. His wife's things were gone, the apartment almost empty. Dam even took all the money Thomas was saving for the summer house. The baby is choking from screaming, and this cuckoo left a note, saying, "Such a life is not for me, I'm leaving." She said she's found another man. He's a traveler. He doesn't need all this family life. And she's supposedly tired of all that baby snot, diapers. No, can you imagine leaving your own kid alone in an apartment? It's just creepy. Yeah, it's creepy. Why would she do all that? But if she didn't like it, why start? Tharia lowered her voice. Why would she? Thomas is my well-to-do man. Smart, handsome kind. She fell for his money, had children. She probably thought she could dump the kids on a nanny and spend my son's money left and right. That's what happened. Thomas fulfilled her every whim at the beginning of their relationship. He even moved to another city because she wanted him to. But that wasn't enough for her. Anyway, when she left, Thomas refused to ever have a relationship again. Until now, he's alone. But when he talked about you, about me, Maria wondered what he could have said about me. He hadn't even seen my face. Sweet girl, you're an adult. It's time you realized that looks in life are not the main thing. I'm not stupid. I know why you're wearing glasses. Thomas told me he's never seen you without them. Maria, you should never be ashamed of yourself. That's easy for you to say. I'm not just ugly, never mind. Maria was embarrassed by this conversation and decided to change the subject. It turns out that Adriana doesn't even remember her mom. Why does she react so strongly to talk about her? She doesn't, of course. But she's growing up in a community. All her friends have moms, but she doesn't. That's what she's worried about. Kevin's been easier on her sister and her father and grandmother Adriana. Girls, is it hard growing up without a mom? Yeah, it's really hard. Well, I hope Thomas meets his wife. I think we should go. What do you say? The old woman replied quietly. Kevin and I will see you off too. Adriana will stay with you, Maria. Of course, I'll be happy to spend a few more days with her. Good. She rose from her seat and walked slowly to the children's room to pick up the children. Maria. The woman stopped her halfway through. Look after my son, he is a good man. For the next few days, while Thomas was still in the hospital, Adriana stayed with Maria. They got along well with each other and talked a lot. Maria taught the child everything she knew how to do. Maria finally stopped being shy of the little girl because she did not seem to notice her imperfections at all. In the evenings, they watched movies together. During the day, Adriana helped to prepare meals to order. On their free days, they would go for walks in the park. There they often met Kevin and Daria. The girl loved her brother very much, and she loved her grandmother too, even though she didn't like visiting her. On one of those days, Adriana even managed to persuade Maria to go outside without her glasses and headgear. Maria's heart raced as she rode in the elevator and scrutinized her face. She thought she was about to get out and the world would go crazy. People with big torches and rakes would appear from everywhere. They would come at her and shout monsters and monsters. But it didn't happen. Maria, under the arm of a little girl, calmly left the house and calmly went for a walk through the city. People did not pay any attention to her, just calmly passed by on their own business. One of the old ladies passing by even stopped. "How does your daughter look like you?" she said. Maria answered me, "Would you say the same?" Maria thought to herself, crazy. How can such a beautiful child be like me? That walk showed the girl that for the most part, all people simply didn't care what she looked like. No one was pointing fingers at her like they once had. No one was behind her back either. Maybe Maria had been hiding all these years for nothing, hiding from everyone. In any case, the past could not be changed, but perhaps the future could be changed. Thanks to the little girl, Maria began to feel a little more confident than she had felt for the last few years. One evening, Maria received a call from the hospital. The stern doctor informed her that the patient was about to be discharged and had to be taken away because he was blind. Maria continued to have mixed feelings. On the one hand, she was glad that he would never see her face, but on the other hand, she fed herself for such thoughts. And also the words of the old woman she had met in the empty park did not leave her mind. "Your love will be blind." She kept repeating these words to herself. What would that mean? Maria, Adriana, Daria, and Kevin met before coming to the hospital to pick up Thomas. Maria was a little nervous. What would happen next, she thought. Would we communicate? What kind of relationship will I have with this family? Maria was lost in speculation and could not get rid of the thought that very soon something would change. She couldn't understand what it was, but the feeling of big changes followed her around. Maybe she should start being friends with Thomas. All four of them. They came to the hospital to take Thomas home. Since his eyesight was affected, Daria made the decision that she would move in with him for a while to help around the house. Before opening the wide hospital doors, she made a promise with Maria that she would visit them. Maria gladly agreed. When they passed into the hospital lobby, all staggered in a daze of surprise awe. Children, Kevin. "Girl, come here." Next to Thomas stood some incredibly beautiful girl. Her thick blonde hair was building on her thin shoulders. Her big gray eyes resembled lakes. She gently held Thomas under her arm. He looked scared. "Kids, it's me, little Kevin paid. Who are you?" asked the boy and hid behind his grandmother. "Don't touch our daddy." "Honey, is it me?" answered the pretty girl. "Your mom?" Mom stepped forward. "Adriana, we don't know you. You're not our mom." "She's our mom now." The little girl stretched out her hand and pointed at Maria. Maria was stunned. "Who else are you?" the pretty girl asked her. "My husband's mistress." Maria still stood still. She tried to get a closer look at the stranger, but the dark sunglasses prevented her from doing so. There was something about this girl, something painfully familiar. "What are you doing here?" Daria asked sternly. "I remembered that I had children once, only they've already forgotten you. You're not their mother, you're only their biological mother. Get out of here. You're not welcome here." "What am I doing here?" asked the girl, laughing. "Actually, in case you didn't know, I'm Thomas's wife. I got a call from the hospital saying he was blind. Of course I came back. I can't leave my family in the lurch." "You've already left them," Daria replied. Thomas intervened in the conversation. "It's my fault. We never got divorced. Nobody knew where she'd gone. I was going to file for divorce, but I never got around to it. It's good to have you back. We're finally seeing each other. But if you didn't get a divorce, then you didn't want to." The girl affectionately took Thomas under her arm again. But we're going home, and you about us, apparently, and looked at Maria with anger. And you are no longer needed here. You're such a bitch, Molly, said Daria, that your man left you or you ran out of money? You've come to steal from us again. But no, I'm not going to let you ruin my son's life this time. You better leave nicely or else. Molly, Maria repeated quietly. She finally realized who was standing in front of her was the same Molly, the same sister of her ex-fiancé, the very person for whom Maria had been disfigured. Her burn scars ached, tears welled up in her eyes, and her hands shook. Molly, where have you been? Quietly asked Maria. What do you want? What business? Snarled the girl. Maria did not say anything in response. In that second, the whole puzzle came together in her mind. That mysterious man, for whom Molly was trying so hard, was the man for whom Maria had cooked the dishes that had caused that terrible fire. It was Thomas. I can't believe Maria didn't realize it. That voice was hoarse. Somewhere in the back of her mind, Maria knew it was him. And how Adriana resembled her own mother. Molly had forced her new lover to move out. Right after the fire, fearing criminal liability by moving out, she had children. And then Thomas forced her to move back in. Maybe that's why she ran away, afraid of being caught and prosecuted for locking an innocent girl in a fire. But why Maria was back now, and I wished I could throw myself at her, claw at her hair, scratch her entire face with my fingernails, scratch it so that Molly would understand what it was like. Understood what it was like to live with such horrible scars on her face. But Maria wasn't that kind of person at all. She just turned around and walked out of the hospital. She never wanted to see Thomas or anyone else from that family again. All she said was good luck and disappeared through the hospital doors. Maria stopped leaving the house. Memories of the betrayal by the heat returned to her painfully every night. Thomas called the girl every day, but she did not pick up the phone. What are we going to talk about? She thought painfully. She wanted to forget everything that had happened to her. But the burns kept nagging. And that family never left her mind. One evening, Maria decided to pick up her cell phone. Her friend Kelly was calling her. Hello, Maria answered quietly. Hello, Maria, where did you disappear to? From the phone came the excited voice of her friend. Oh, I've had an accident. Maria told Kelly everything that had happened to her in the last month. Her friend was completely shocked by what she heard. When Maria finished her story, Kelly said something that changed Maria's life dramatically in the future. Maria, stop thinking about others. Think about yourself. First of all, it's Molly. I mean, she's basically a criminal. You have to go to the police and report that she's back in town. Oh, you think she's still gonna get nailed for this? It's been years. I don't care. She's guilty and she must be punished. You won't know that until you go to the police. Maria was about to say, why would she do that? But something clicked in her head and she answered confidently, yes, you're right. Molly will be punished. With these words, Maria hung up the phone and immediately left the house. Heading for the police station, Maria walked out of the house alone for the first time in her life, not wearing her disguise. She walked confidently to the police station to tell them that the one who made her life go downhill was back in town. Let them see what happened to my face because of her. With that thought, she walked into the room and almost bumped into someone she already knew. Maria. Daria looked at the girl in surprise. Honey, what happened to your face? Fire. It's all a fire, she answered boldly. She didn't seem to care what anyone thought of her. She told Daria about Molly. The woman flapped her eyes fearfully. Then she replied, I knew that girl wasn't just a bad person. She was a criminal. And you know what? I've also come to report her for the theft she committed, which she took my son's money. Maybe we should go together, Maria replied. And they went together to the front office. Mola was sent to prison. The court found her guilty of not helping at the fire and recognized the fact of stealing the money. It turned out that from the day Maria left the hospital doors, Thomas did kick the mother of his children away. He filed for divorce and talked about Maria the entire time. After the trial was finalized, the young people started dating. From now on, Maria didn't care about the scars. She completely stopped being embarrassed by them And wearing big glasses also on her face did not become more. Although Thomas never saw her face, she knew that he loved her first of all for her soul. And appearance was still secondary. The young people married 6 months later, and Maria moved to live with him. Thomas turned out to be a very wealthy man. He owned a lot of commercial real estate. After learning that Maria dreamed of having her own restaurant, the man gave her the premises and she fulfilled her dream. The children got so used to Maria that they called her Mom, which made her heart flutter. After all, she had dreamed of having children. And after 5 years of their life together, something happened that Maria had once dreaded. Thomas came into the kitchen. "Honey, I'm here," answered the girl, putting aside. After all, the children were already at school, and Maria woke up early to bake pancakes for breakfast for her beloved. "It's okay. Yes, I am." He moved closer, and Maria noticed how her husband's gaze brightened. "What is it, Maria?" "Aya, I think I can see again," Maria asked fearfully. She tried, her hands automatically reaching for her face, but the man managed to intercept them. "Beloved, I see," joyfully he answered, pulling her into his arms. "It's a miracle, I see. And now what?" she asked gently. He gazed into her face for a long time, then answered, "Now I love you even more than before. You, so beautiful." A dome of hands and long dough spilled over the stove and onto the floor. And Maria stood, penetrated by her husband, and cried with happiness. It's not for nothing they say, don't be born beautiful, but be born happy.